What's up? Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. Oh boy, we're finally going to do our February Q&A. And in addition to that, we have a story I would like to do. Eric Bischoff on his podcast said that the Bloodline story was better than the nWo. Now, there's a small little caveat there. So we're going to have a conversation about that. It's going to be pretty short, pretty brief, because I do want to get to the Q&A portion of this thing, which I didn't know people cared about. So we're going to get to the Q&A portion pretty quickly. But I want to give people a couple of minutes to sort of file in. I appreciate everybody who, again, who gives me a little bit of their time today, whether you listen to this live or listen to it on repeat somewhere. Thank you guys for your time. Hope you had a wonderful week. Hopefully you have a weekend planned that's going to be fun and exciting, or maybe you just will be working. Me not working weekends anymore is gravy. I can promise you that. I can tell you that. Me not working weekends anymore is absolutely fantastic. Um, so that's a wonderful thing. So hey, how's everybody been? How's everybody been? What is you guys up to? It's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions floating around in this joint already, man. There's a lot of questions floating around in this joint. I'll start at about the 2 minute mark, maybe the 3 minute mark, give some more people time to come on in. I don't know who Eric is. I have no idea who Eric is. I wish I did know, because he's apparently insane. So, Top Dog, I have been fine, brother. How have you been? Glad Parking Hunt's been good. So I'm interested in where to go from here. And I appreciate everybody, because I forget to do things. Like I forgot to do this damn Q&A, and people really reminded me to do the Q&A. So this is going to be good. Eric. I guess you meant Eric Bischoff, Christian. Oh God, is that Mike Tyson pronouncing this or what? Okay, so in about 20 seconds we'll get started, because I want to hurry up and pound through this to get to the Q&A, which I know everybody's going to enjoy, because it's a mixture of different topics and all sorts of things. All right, so he meant Eric Bischoff. Is Eric Bischoff insane? He wants to fit in so bad with WWE. I don't know if that's the case. Let's hear the old boy out, okay? So this is what he said on his podcast. I'm pretty sure. I wish I had the audio, but there's no way I'm gonna listen to an Eric Bischoff podcast. You can forget about it, brother. Eric Bischoff said, quote, "The truth is the Bloodline story, in terms of storyline and the ingredients and the elements and the discipline and the structure and the nature of it, is a far better story than the nWo. Will it have the same impact on the industry as the nWo did? Probably not. But that has nothing to do with the timing. But that has a lot to do with the timing. There are so many things that made the nWo work, including Hulk Hogan turning heel, by the way. There were so many things that were just a moment in time that helped propel that storyline at that time. You can't replicate that today." So, I agree with everything he just said. What he said is the Bloodline is a better story. But the nWo happened at a certain point in time with certain impactful events that you can't undo, right? Those things worked because of that particular point in time. I know all of my stuck in the 90s folks are really just going to flip their lid and turn over the tables. How dare you have recency bias? It's like, yeah, but you also have nostalgia bias. The nWo as an original idea was great. Okay, the original three men, Hogan, Hall, and Nash, that was excellent. You could add Savage, you could add Ted DiBiase, those things worked. Once you started adding in Virgil, Big Show, Eric Bischoff, Scott Norton, once Scott Norton's part of something, I mean, come on, it's over. The cool factor of it is dead. We're done with it at that point. But um, when you look at the structure of the NWO storyline, the early part of the NWO storyline is who's going to be a part of it. You know, we already know what they want. They wanted to take over. But the question was who was going to be a part of it. When they started doing different people from WCW was flipping, and then there was the suspicion of Sting, that kind of stuff. That stuff was fun. You know, that was the first year of the NWO, right? Because remember that it started in mid '96, and for the first year, it was who's going to join the NWO. The NWO takes over. Who's going to join? Uh, the crowd really getting involved with the NWO. It made WCW, which was a kind of a dead brand, even hotter. You know, it really sparked that brand. Hulk Hogan turning heel is the boom that makes that thing work. The NWO as a storyline does not work without Hulk Hogan turning heel and Hall and Nash appearing straight from WWF TV. That's what makes it work. Okay. With those two elements, the NWO was a highly impactful story that changed the course of the business. The Bloodline story will not do that because it's not going to have those particular elements. Even Roman Reigns turning heel did not matter. The Bloodline as a story is a very tightly knit group. The Bloodline existed before the Bloodline exists now. There was a babyface version of the Bloodline from several years ago. It was the same thing, Roman and the Usos. But the story here involves a lot more soap. It's a lot more soap opera in this storyline where things can change week to week. You know, Sami Zayn's in good graces of Roman Reigns this week. He's in the doghouse the next for minor reasons. The constant tug and pull of whether Sami Zayn is in good standing or on the outs, whether Jay is in good standing or on the outs. There's not a lot of people involved. You know, it's a very tight story with very set group of folks. So if you'd have kept the NWO tight and small, I think it probably would have been so much better, especially if they'd have ended it when Sting beat Hogan. It would have been so much better. The Bloodline as a story is more compact. It started with Jay and Roman, you know, that beautiful package that they had at the beginning where there was like cousins who might as well be brothers. And then the set of matches that Roman and Jay had, the reintroduction of Jimmy. Jimmy, how is Jimmy going to fit into this new Roman Jay Uso? Because now Jay Uso is the main event Jay Uso, and he's doing whatever Roman says. How is Jimmy going to fit into this thing? So it took a while just to get Jimmy involved in it. You know, I think they were together about maybe 3 or 4 months before Jimmy even really came back. Then there was some time of, you know, some schism between the Usos, whether Jay was Roman's bitch or, you know, Jimmy and all this kind of stuff. And this was all before Sami Zayn even got involved in it. There was still week to week, you know, small blocks being put on the storyline that was actually making it bigger. And it was branching out a little bit more. You didn't know whether the Usos were even going to continue to get along in the early part. Then you had the idea that you were seeing some special stuff from Jay to even question whether he should even continue to be a tag team wrestler. And this was over a year ago, you know. So at this point, there's a lot going on with the Bloodline right there, just in terms of story. Then they started introducing other characters. They introduced Sami Zayn after WrestleMania last year. Now Sami Zayn has his own little character arc, and his character arc has been carrying the Bloodline for 9 months, you know. But while Sami Zayn has had that character arc, you also had Jay Uso's character arc was continuing. Then they brought in Solo Sikoa, who took up a different role. He actually took Jay's role. Remember, Jay used to be the enforcer. Um, and then Solo came in to become the enforcer. So there was different elements that were brought in at different particular points in time to extend the storyline that, you know, protected certain players in the storyline. So there's a lot more soap opera in the Bloodline. Now they have to stick the landing. It's entirely impossible to say what story is better because the Bloodline story is not over yet. So they could completely botch the ending, and people will remember this as being, hey, this was a great set of TVs and a great set of matches, and the crowd is hot, and the TV, everything is up, but they didn't stick the landing. And there's quite a few WWE stories that are really good, but they don't stick the landing. But it has done a tremendous job. And I think if you were sitting down writing a story, I think that if you were writing a story, you probably would like the Bloodline story more. As a TV viewer, as a wrestling fan, I can understand why you would say the nWo. But you have to understand that the nWo worked for wrestling fans because the nWo was working off wrestling fan knowledge. In other words, you knew who Razor Ramon was, you knew who Diesel was, you knew them going to WCW was a completely different ball game. Then Hulk Hogan. Everybody knows who Hulk Hogan is. When you change him heel, which he hadn't been in 15 years or something like that at that point, you created something special. But I do think there are some storylines that when they go on too long, it waters them down. And I think AJ3 mentioned Austin and McMahon, and that's one of them that I think absolutely went too long. I think that it went on a little too long. But I understand. I understand why he would say that. And I kind of agree. I really wasn't that huge of a fan of the nWo. I was always more of a DX guy. But you can't change the impact that the nWo had on the business. I mean, you'll be delusional to think that. But what I say is the nWo had so many job guys in it. Like, how could people really be involved in the story? Even when they branched out a little bit to like X-Pac, I'm sorry, Six, when he was in it, he was sort of their guy for the cruiserweight division. And then he got fired. He wasn't in the nWo that long before he got fired. He fits, though. He fit not just because he was a Click member, but because he was a former WWF guy who is now in WCW. Savage fits for that same reason, even though Savage and Hogan being on the same side makes no sense. So I get it. There was a lot of stuff there that was legitimately very good at the beginning of the nWo. And then there was some really cool stuff that happened with Sting in the nWo. But there was never really that major angle outside of the Sting angle. It just kind of felt like it was the same thing over and over again. And that's what happens when the story goes too long. And that's kind of how the Bloodline will get. If Roman, by some stretch of the imagination, gets to through April as the champion, then you'll know it's probably because the Usos jumped into the match. And this will be like, okay, how many times could the Usos possibly just jump into matches? People are tired of that shit already. And it was the same thing with the nWo. Like, okay, nWo jumps the ring. It's like 7 of them jump in the ring. They help Hogan win. Hogan steals the win. They jump him. They spray paint him. nWo for life. We go off the air. Like, there's so much of that that's been happening. But the Bloodline has had an ebb and flow where the Usos lose. They lose too much as far as I'm concerned. But they lose. And it allows other people to build up and be contenders. Like, there's some really solid stuff that has been happening with the Bloodline and helping to build other opponents. And the whole thing with RK Bro, that was very good, which of course encapsulated Riddle and Randy Orton. They never got to the Randy Orton Roman Reigns match, unfortunately. The Drew McIntyre stuff was actually pretty good. In the early part, Jay and Roman was probably the best stuff. I know Kevin Owens was involved with that too at that part, but I wasn't really a big fan of Kevin Owens, and I felt like they were doing too much. They were fighting way too much. The Edge Daniel Bryan stuff wasn't that great, mainly because they were shoehorning Daniel Bryan into it, and I didn't like that. But I think since I want to say Clash at the Castle, maybe since Money in the Bank, what was that event where Roman wrestled Edge? Whatever, since there, this has been pretty good. It's been a pretty consistent, solid story. And yes, Roman gets a lot of help, but he also can win matches on his own. So I'm very interested in what other people think about this whole idea. But I definitely think the nWo went on too long, and that colors my opinion of the nWo. because when I think of the NWO, I just don't think of the original three. You know, you also have to take into account that the storyline went on so long that it was so many players and so many people in it. And not all of those people were top level guys. Like, yeah, you had Kurt Hennig in there. But if you'd had Kurt Hennig in there in 96, that would have been great. Him being in there in 98 was nonsense. Like this storyline's already 2 years overdone, Um Park and Hunt asked me about Scott Steiner. Well, the Steiner brothers weren't really known as WWE guys. Like that was the general idea, is that the NWO were supposed to be invaders. They were supposed to be guys who are invading WCW from the WWF. That was the general idea. Everybody who fit that criteria made sense to fit in the group. Ted DiBiase, he wasn't doing the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, but he was doing Ted DiBiase, and it was pretty well known that he was a man with money. And then, of course, he didn't really have to do anything. He didn't have to call himself the $1 Million Man. You already know what the character is. Just like Razor Ramon didn't have to say he was Razor Ramon. He just had to talk in a certain way, and you knew it was Razor Ramon. Like you just knew it, right? When they started branching out into other guys, it's like, okay, you want to have guys flip and turn and join the NWO. The NWO is kind of like an infection now, where it's starting to turn other people. All right, well, it has to be certain people. Certain people can flip, and it will make sense and it will be okay. But then other people just joining the NWO, just being a part of the group, and then the splintering of the NWO into the Wolf Pack. Disco Inferno was in it. Like, come on, man. I don't hate Disco Inferno as much as everybody else, but Disco Inferno was in it. Conan was in it. TN Pyro just noted Conan was in it. Like what did Conan have to do with the NWO, with the original idea? It strayed so far from the original idea that it just doesn't make sense. The Bloodline, they kept that stuff so tight that even people who made sense to be in the Bloodline didn't get in it. Like people who wanted Nia Jax in the Bloodline because she is legitimately related to them, they didn't put her in the Bloodline. Naomi, who is the wife of Jey Uso, they didn't put her in the Bloodline. So they legitimately really showed some discipline and did not stretch the Bloodline too thin. They made sure that everybody that they interacted with was a top guy or had the potential to be, and that's what they stuck with. They tried to do that. They tried to do something different with Solo Sikoa. Even when they brought him in through NXT, they wanted him to do something else, and it became just he looks so much like them, and he wrestles just like them. He has the same body type and everything. They just said, "Screw it, throw him in the Bloodline," so they did. And but they kept it tight, and everybody wanted there to be a female member of the Bloodline. They never did it. They never decided to stretch it. They never decided to go that route. I already know, man. My stuck in the '90s dudes, man. I don't. I get it. I get it. I get it. Everybody loved the NWO. There's no question about that. Oh, she's married to Jimmy. Ah, shit. I don't. I can't tell them apart. And I don't think it matters at this point anyway. She's the only one who needs to know the difference. All right. But when you look at the situation of the NWO being sort of a loose association of characters that don't deserve to be on the same screen as Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase, these are guys who were kings of the business in the 80s and the early 90s. And then you have fucking Scott Norton, David Flair, and those fucking guys in the group. And then later on, they tried to revamp the NWO again and put Jeff Jarrett in there. Jeff Jarrett, who had jumped back and forth between WCW and WWE. Then they put Bret Hart in there. It's like, come on. It was stupid. To me, it was stupid. And it got stupid real fast, too, as far as I'm concerned. When Bischoff joined, that was already kind of wishy-washy, because I'm already like, come on. Why would Bischoff be a part of the group? He has nothing to do with the NWO. Him being powerbombed off that stage was an important moment for the NWO and their invasion angle, right? And then he turned around and joined them. That was weird. You know, I don't know, man. I know that the stuck in the 90s dudes are going to be like, oh, you're out of your mind. I'm not even thinking about it in terms of if the Bloodline story had been going on at the same time as the NWO would have been far higher. You know, again, they did some stuff that had never really been done at that time. Most people never had any idea that Hulk Hogan could work heel or had ever worked heel. That worked. That was fantastic. You know, it was excellent. They probably, if they needed to have a voice for the NWO, how great would it have been? Every time I talk about the NWO, I think of something different. This is going to blow your mind. What if the NWO, the manager of Hulk Hogan, was Bobby the Brain Heenan? Just think about that. Just think about that for a moment. If Bobby Heenan was the voice of Hulk Hogan, out of most people who were watching the NWO, they knew Bobby Heenan, Hulk Hogan on the same side. When you were growing up, Bobby Heenan had everybody who wanted to defeat Hulk Hogan was in his camp. But now you're sort of a teenager, and you could create a story in which Bobby Heenan is the brain, and he's the one who put the NWO together and all that kind of stuff. It would have been great. You know, if anybody from the commentary team should have joined the NWO, it should have been Bobby the Brain Heenan, not fucking Eric Bischoff. That makes no sense. It makes no sense. So as they started doing that, they started doing things that didn't make sense. People didn't care because the NWO were cool. They had a cool look. The aesthetic was cool. They were having good matches. They were having good angles. They were, telling decent to good stories, but they strayed away from what the original idea was. Meanwhile, the Bloodline stayed on the original plot. And it took over time, the Bloodline became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Meanwhile, the NWO started out with a huge bang. And then over time, it became less and less and less and less important. Yeah, Dusty Rhodes joined the NWO for Christ's sake. It was a short time there. But it made no sense. Dusty Rhodes is not synonymous with the WWE. It made no sense. To me, it just felt like they wanted Bischoff changed his mind. It went from he didn't change his mind as much as he didn't stick to the plan. He wanted the NWO to engulf like half of WCW. Well, that's not going to work because at that point you cease being invaders, and now you're just regular guys on the roster. And that's what it became. It became the NWO has top guys, the NWO has job guys. WCW has top guys, they also have job guys. And it's kind of like, oh well, everybody's the same, It's just it was goofy. It was goofy. And I think part of it is just my general dislike of the NWO or general dislike of WCW. Like I watched it, I enjoyed a lot of it. I was one of those kids that flipped back and forth a lot, but I was always a WWF kid. I never got so entrapped in the NWO angle that I didn't watch Raw, or that I didn't watch Raw first and then watch Nitro when it was on replay, or I would tape Nitro at home and watch Raw at my friend's house or something like that. Matter of fact, that wouldn't have happened because I wouldn't have had cable. But like that sort of thing, I would always watch Nitro, but I would always watch it after I watched WWF. So that was sort of maybe that's my bias talking. But the NWO started out huge. It was fantastic. But over time, it just became less and less. It was still a focal point of the show where you see multiple NWO run-ins throughout the night and multiple NWO cheating segments throughout the night. But it wasn't must see, because they jumped this guy, then they jumped this guy, then they jumped that guy. If you were watching the Bloodline 3 weeks ago, you're shocked by what's been happening so far. It's something that the payoff, especially the Royal Rumble spot, changed it to something that was completely different, where I feel like comfortable having a conversation with the Bloodline and the NWO in the same conversation. You know, you can definitely get involved with it, because I think that twist with Jey Uso walking out is perfect. Because if you know the beginning of the Bloodline story, you know that this is something that Jey didn't really want to do anyway. You know, he didn't really want to even be a part of this mess. He was doing it because of his family. Then he had Sami Zayn forced upon him. Then he became friends with Sami Zayn. And then Roman took the fucking Sami Zayn away. So it was like, and now the storyline is even more. It keeps asking questions. And that's what a good story should do. The more you watch, the more questions you should have. You know, and it answers some questions while asking others. You know, the question was, when was the bloodline finally going to turn on Sami Zayn? The answer was the Royal Rumble. They subverted expectations by having Sami cause the turn by him attacking Roman first. And then they gave you a nice little twist with Jey walking out. You know, and then now they're making you wait to see what is Jey going to do. You know, so it's keeping you interested. Even if you want to duck out of the story, you can't, because you want to know what's going on. DX actually had an incredibly short run. DX fizzled out pretty quick. The Triple H version of DX was cool. You know, I think it was probably the more merch moving version of DX, but I was always a Shawn, Rick Rude, China. Again, that was another one where I felt like I didn't have an issue with the people that was in DX when Shawn left, because they fit. The Outlaws fit, X Pac fits. I just China was, by 2000, they were doing weird shit. They was pushing China as a solo star. She was beating up men. You know, she wanted to challenge Triple H for the belt and all this kind of stuff. I'm just kind of like, yeah, you know. And by that point, they started doing things like X Pac and Kane being tag team partners, and I'm not even going. I don't count anything after 2000 as DX. You know, the rebirth as a tag team with Shawn and Triple H, and all the stuff with Hornswoggle and all that. Nah, man, I don't really count that stuff. That would be like counting um, Shawn Michaels as a member of DX. Like, that happened so many years after the fact. It's like, nah. If it was connected to the original story, then yeah. Like Jeff Jarrett. Like Jeff Jarrett being a member of the NWO was connected to the original story. But it was stupid. You know, NWO 2000 was awful. DX 2000 was barely there. It was not really even a thing that existed at that time. All right. I spent almost 25 minutes on that. All right. Let's get to you guys' questions. Let me put in the chat first when the questions are going to start. How's everybody doing this evening? All right. Yeah, X-Pac joining DX is pretty cool. All right. Oh my God. The first question. Where would you rank the Bloodline story in terms of the best storytelling in WWE? Well, is it better than the Mega Powers exploding? No. Is it better than Austin and McMahon? No. Is it better than uh, let's see. Is it better than CM Punk and John Cena? Yes, I would say that. Is it better? Because CM Punk and John Cena just had the pipe bomb, and that was pretty much it. Is it better than um, Hogan and Andre? Well, Hogan and Andre is basically the same story as Hogan and Paul Orndorff. So, well, then they did the two referees, so that was pretty badass. Um, then they had WrestleMania 4, which was a flop. So I wouldn't say it was better than Hogan and Andre. Hogan and Andre has it's a special place in my heart for that. Austin and McMahon, same thing. I have a soft spot in my heart for Austin and McMahon. The Bret and Owen story, oh man, that one was so tremendous. The Bret and Owen story, it didn't last very long. It was less than a year or about a year. because the story actually began before Owen turned heel. Um, so, mm, but Brett and Owen is pretty close. I love the Brett and Owen story. I love two dudes with attitudes and their breakup. Over that 2 years. I would say it's top 10. Would it be top 5? I would have to sit down and write 5. The Yes Movement will be part of that. Kofi Mania will be part of that. The breakup of Evolution would be part of that. The Rise of the Shield would be part of that. The Wyatt family stories would be part of that. There'll probably be the Wyatt family and the Shield probably be just outside the top 10. The Authority angle was pretty hot, for a long time. I probably would. It's certainly better than the Authority angle, but some of that classic 90s, 80s WWF stuff, like Jake Roberts and Ricky Steamboat, nah. Bret Hart and Steve Austin, I wouldn't put the Bloodline over that. The Bloodline is the best storyline they have done in 20 some odd years. So anything that happened since 2000, I would say is debatable. But anything before 2000, probably not. Probably not. I don't see it being better than some of the stuff they were doing in the 80s. I mean, they were doing some really good stuff in the 80s, man. And yes, a lot of Hogan's stories did lead to other Hogan stories. Like his angles would literally like lock like that. But again, the structure of them would be the same. Hogan has a friend, his friend eventually turns on him. I mean, that's just kind of Hulk Hogan's story. He did that a lot. Paul Orndorff, fucking Andre, and there was somebody else too, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Savage, yeah, it was another one. Um, there was a lot of that kind of stuff. Shawn Taker, the WrestleMania trilogy. Um, well, they had 2 matches at WrestleMania, but I count the Royal Rumble. That's why I said trilogy. Uh, on a week-to-week basis, I would say the Bloodline is a better story. Um, but that's because again, week to week, and that's the difference. Like Shawn and Taker, I can remember those big angles when they were doing their thing. I remember the big angles, but it wasn't a week to week story. Not really. Not for the sake of 2 years. It wasn't. You know, but I really, it's hard to say. Um, what I just think that as a week to week episodic program, what the Bloodline is doing is better than anything they've done since at least 2000. At least 2000. Um, this the Shaw and Brett stuff was very good too, but that was before 2000. So, all right, DeAndre Dukes. The second question: was there any video game you hated but now have a different opinion on it years later? Uh, Not really. No. Chances are, if I didn't like it, probably still don't like it. But then again, I haven't gone back and played a lot of old games, to be quite honest. So I can't really say for sure. I remember when I played Donkey Kong on the arcade cabinet. I hated it as a kid. It was kind of fun when I played it on Nintendo. And then I went to a little arcade we have here in Detroit, and Donkey Kong was fun again, and it was on the arcade cabinet. So maybe that counts. But then again, I was kind of drunk too, so I don't know. I also used to hate pinball when I was a kid, but I actually think pinball is fun now. I don't know. His third question: what comic book series is your favorite? Comic book series. Well, that's a good question. That's a tough question too, because I'm sitting here thinking of like, what is a series? I'm a big fan of Deadly Class. I'm looking at it right now. I have the entire thing. There's another series called Middle West. I think it's very good too. It's very good. Um, but my favorite character is Daredevil. So my favorite run is the Frank Miller Daredevil run. Um, what else? Maybe. Let me turn my thing around. Maybe I can see some more that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. Uh, yeah, I think I'll probably name the ones that I really really liked. There's probably some more. Like I'm a big fan of the Hellblazer, the Constantine books, but I don't know if that counts because it was like an ongoing, and I don't have like everything in the in the book. But like the '80s Hellblazer books, those were very good and more. It was a good mixture of like occult and horror books and like thrillers and stuff like that. It was actually very good. Four, how do you see the Bloodline ending? It's got to end, I think, officially with Jey Uso beating Roman Reigns, and I think he has to free himself. How do we get there? I don't know. Roman doesn't need the belts to be, the head of the table and all that kind of stuff. He's already established. You can keep the story going even though Roman doesn't have the belts anymore. Uh, which could lead to The Rock and all that kind of stuff if that's what you wanted to do. But I think it began with Roman and Jay. It has to end with Roman and Jay. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. Uh, Five. What reboots of any kind do you hate and was absolutely unnecessary? Oh God, that's most reboots. This milestone reboot that DC is doing is the absolute shits. It's the shits. Everybody's some version of woke idiot. Even Icon, who wasn't even supposed to be woke, he's supposed to be like a sort of how do you? He was a conservative character, but he wasn't Larry Elder. He wasn't like hardcore conservative. He was always sort of understanding and sort of appreciated humans and human life and understanding what people went through and how difficult it was. But now he's a moralizing woke idiot. So I don't know, man. But that reboot I didn't care for. The reboots of Hellblazer haven't been that great either. Um, God, there's been so many reboots of like TV shows that I feel like were real stupid. I mean, just ugh. I could go on and on with the TV shows for Christ's sake. All the various reboots of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like Rise of the TMNT. Ugh. The ugh. That shit was so dumb. It's just a stupid fucking show. The Thundercats reboot, stupid. Just dumb. Just real stupid. Just real stupid. And by reboot, I mean that they were trying to make it like Teen Titans Go, which is what they're trying to do to everything now. Um, it's quite a few. It's probably some more that I'm not thinking of the top of my head. Um, DeAndre Duke's sixth question. Names some of the current people in wrestling you don't like with a passion. Well, I think I talk about those every week. Sammy Guevara, Natalia, um, Sanjay Dutt, Eric Young, Eddie Edwards, Rhino, Big Show. Um, uh, Contrary to everybody's thoughts, I do not dislike Eddie Kingston. I just like making fun of Eddie Kingston. Have an intense dislike of like those people. Zoe Stark is slowly but surely getting on my nerves too. Von Wagner, I can't stand him. Dijak, can't stand him. Wesley, can't stand him. I tried with Wesley, man. I can't stand him. I can't fucking stand that guy. He's just so fucking boring. He's a boring fucking guy. That's just off the top of my head that I can think of. So AJ3 has 5 questions. His first question: have you ever been to a Kid Rock concert? Absolutely not. Why would I go to a Kid Rock concert? I am not a hillbilly, and I don't know any hillbillies. And Michigan isn't exactly where hillbillies hang out. 2, who was your favorite Detroit Lions player? I'm guessing you mean all time. Barry Sanders, easily. Herman Moore would probably be second, but Barry Sanders is definitely number 1. Number 3, did you get the book by Gothics called The Naked Communist? I did not. I didn't know she wrote a book. That ought to be interesting. 4, what's your favorite cerebral movie that you've seen in years? I'm guessing you mean sort of like a thriller or something like that. I can't tell you. I can't tell you one. I honestly can't give you one. I don't really watch a lot of movies, though I'm watching movies more often than I used to. Like I tried to watch From Hell. The was based on the Alan Moore graphic novel. I thought it was absolutely boring, and I started texting and doing literally anything else other than that movie. So I can't tell you one. I did like Inception. I know a lot of other people didn't. I thought Inception was cool. It was just a really cool idea. It was a fun little movie. I turned my brain off and didn't overthink it, and it was okay. 5. What's your favorite hip hop album posters? Posters, not album covers. I used to have a Crazy Bone poster for his second album, and I had one for his first album. I used to have it on my wall. So I guess those two are my favorites. Even though I literally took the Crazy Bone poster off of an abandoned building. It had like some staples in it. I sat there and meticulously pulled the staples out of the out of the damn poster so I can have the poster mostly intact. And I took it home. It was the cover for his second album. That's the one I did. So I put a lot of effort into keeping that joint. Um, what other album posters did I have? Uh, I think the Bone album posters might be the only ones like I actually got posters for. I didn't really have. I think DMX. I had DMX poster. The block is not the not it's dark and hell is hot, but flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. I had the album poster for that. Um, so I think maybe those two. All right, Top Dog. I know he's in the chat. What's your thoughts on John Cena's rap album from 2005? I personally think it's better than a lot of mainstream rap nowadays. To be quite honest, I heard the album twice, and it was a long time ago, and I can't remember it. I don't remember liking it. I don't remember thinking it was garbage either. But I do wish he had came out to Bad Man. I do wish he had used that as a theme song. I'm a bad man. I wish somebody would come out to that song. It just screams to be an intro song. Somebody should harass Vince McMahon or John Cena or Triple H or whoever to use John Cena's Bad Man as a theme song. I think it would fit. It's him 24/7 has 2 questions. What's your biggest accomplishment in your life? Wow. Um, I think we'll be getting a master's degree, probably. Um, that's the most accomplishments I've ever done, I think. I never really win anything. I've never really done much of anything, but going from having dropped out of high school to having a master's degree is pretty damn cool, I think. So I think that was a pretty big accomplishment for me. 2, what's the best lesson you've learned in your life? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. One of my favorite lessons that I learned is that you control your own destiny, and you can't really blame other people for for not taking opportunities that were offered to you or not being able to see opportunities when they exist. One of the biggest problems that people have is they don't see their own opportunities. They only see what they don't have because they see what other people have. So it's like, you know, it would be nice if you had X, Y, and Z, but you don't. So you can't worry about that. You have to worry about what you have. You have to focus on what you have and maximizing what you have. And when I learned that, life became less stressful. I stopped blaming other people so much. And that actually helped me move forward in life because before I really, really accepted that, one of the things you will often do is you would blame like your parents. Because that's what I'm just going to say it. That's what liberal society teaches you. Everybody failed you. It's not your fault. Everybody failed you. So, I was a high school dropout with no education, no real work opportunities or anything like that. And then you realize, like, yo, that's your fault. You the one dropped out of high school. Oh, yeah, your parents thought it was okay because you were doing something else. You were helping out around the house and it was pretty necessary. But, you know, sure, you could blame your parents for letting you drop out. You could blame the Detroit public school system for being absolutely shitty. But I had to take I took, and this is without being politically minded, quote unquote. When I wanted to do something about changing my circumstances, I took it upon myself to do it. You know, like I woke up one day and said, I'm going to take the ACT. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to take it. Everybody was like, why would you take an entrance exam to college? You didn't even finish high school. And I'm just kind of like, How bad could it be, really? My brother was studying for it already. He was about to graduate high school, my youngest brother. I looked at his study materials. I just went and bought my own and took it like 2 weeks after he took it. And I ended up getting into college. I was like, fuck yeah, with a GED. Nope. And I scrapped and clawed from there. I went into tons of debt, but I realized what my talent was and I had to maximize. I had to spend money to make money. I had to spend money on, and I knew I was losing my job because the plant was closing. I spent tons of money on books. I started to read more. I started to take education seriously. And that helped me get where I am today. Actually, I probably wouldn't be half as decent as I am on YouTube if I had started it up 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever, and I was a fucking idiot. You know, I think part of the reason why I'm actually halfway decent at this stuff is because I took that time to educate myself, to, just grab a book and read it, understand it, not just regurgitate, but try to understand it. Like I couldn't tell you what's in any of these fucking books that's behind me, like word for word, line for line. I couldn't, but I could probably tell you what the main idea is, and maybe two or three things that got you to that main idea. And once you learn that, it's gravy. All people have to do is learn what you're good at, apply yourself. Don't blame other people when you don't make it. Opportunities will come find you. What you don't get is not for you, but your blessing is somewhere else. That's kind of a Christian way of looking at it. Is not everybody's blessings are going to be the same. So just because your friend has a hot girlfriend right now and a nice family and everything, don't think it won't be for you. It's just maybe not be the case right now. Just because somebody else has a nice car and you are catching the bus, maybe it's not in the cards for you right now. And that's just kind of how it is. Hey, hey, how you doing, Virgin Rebel? Or Virgo Rebel? I can't read. I'm sitting here talking about the virtues of my reading, and I can't read. I can't read shit. Top dog. He has 6 questions. Where would you rank Mobb Deep Shook Ones as the best rap song of the 90s? Oh shit. I think it's one of the songs that defined mid 90s rap. See, there's early 90s rap, which is like Tribe Called Quest, PM Dawn, De La Soul, Public Enemy. That's one thing. Then there's mid 90s rap, 94 to like 97. That's where you get Mobb Deep, Wu Tang, DMX, Bone Thugs and Harmony. That's my shit right there. From 94 to like 98. That's my shit right there, brother. That's me. So Shook Ones is one of those joints that I think Quiet Storm ended up being, of course, a bigger and better track, but Shook Ones is fucking awesome. Um, so I love Shook Ones. It's top 10, top 15 for sure. As far as tracks of the 90s, I think most people who are hip hop heads, if they take all the tracks of the 90s into it, they probably wouldn't put Shook Ones on there. But for me, Shook Ones is on there for sure. Because especially since I don't like a lot of the early 90s rap. A lot of that stuff is awful. Like, De La Soul is terrible. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people like De La Soul. I fucking hate him. Cannot stand De La Soul. Even though I like Tribe Called Quest, I don't like De La Soul. His second question: what was your thoughts on the nWo when they formed in the mid '90s? I think we talked about the nWo for like 30 minutes. I was enthralled in the early part of the show because I loved Razor Ramon as a kid. He is my best friend's favorite wrestler. So he was into it. I was into it. I was like, oh shit, Razor's on WCW. That very quickly went away though. That means I had to watch WCW, and I was not a fan. I never really caught on. I tried watching WCW in the late '80s because that's what my cousins liked, but I never. It was weird. AJ3 has a question on screen. What about X Clan? Did you listen to any? I did listen to X Clan. I did not think it was okay. Just like Brand Nubian. I thought Brand Nubian was okay. I thought Poor Righteous Teachers was okay. It didn't take over my life like it did. It didn't become my personality like it did with other people. But I was okay with X Clan. Virgo Rebel Penguin Loves De La Soul. Oh my goodness, me and myself and I. Ugh, that shit. That shit. It comes across like a PSA. Like it's come across like one of those "don't do drugs" commercials. Ugh, I hate De La Soul. 5. Wait, I'm sorry. 3. Why do everyone want anti-heroes over actual superheroes? I think part of it is years and years of television having anti-heroes as main characters with like Sopranos and like Sons of Anarchy and that kind of stuff. People have started to accept that what they call "quote unquote" human characters who are vicious and evil, but they fight against people who are more vicious and evil. It is I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of it, but a lot of people like that the harder edge to it because superheroes tend to be kind of soft, easily manipulated. They're kind of naive. You know, like you could always pull a fast one on Spider-Man by pretending that you're going to change your tune and all that kind of stuff, and then you betray him later. But you can't really do that to the Punisher. He's going to fucking murder you. You know, he's going to blow your head off, so you're not going to get an opportunity to. All right. Park and Hunt has a question on screen that I actually want to answer. What classic literature have you read? All right. I read Scarlet Letter. I'm currently reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I read Wizard of Oz. I've read Crime and Punishment. I've read, um, I think I read A Mice and Men. I think it's on my wall here. 1984, Fahrenheit 451. I never really got into uh, some of the big epics. Like I read Dune. Um, I just read the first book of Dune though. I didn't. I know Dune is a franchise, but I was in which includes like his son writing Dune, and I'm not. I have no interest in it. Um, Edgar Rice Burroughs, A Princess of Mars. I love that stuff. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to go back and read all of the fairy tales. So Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I just happened to come across it while I was at the bookstore, and it was like $3 or $4. So I decided I was going to grab it and read it. So I've been reading that in my spare time. But like as far as classic literature that um, certain people like The Catcher in the Rye, like I haven't read that. To Kill a Mockingbird, I haven't read that either. I'm gonna get around to the reading those eventually, but I'm trying to take at least a little bit at a time. Like I think I've read enough of that sort of dry 1980s or 1880s classic literature. I read enough of that stuff. Crime and Punishment, I hated that book, by the way. Um, it was so much about the guy's paranoia and him worrying about getting arrested for some horrible thing that he did, and that was sort of his punishment, is that he was cursed with that permanent paranoia and that guilt and that restlessness. Um, what are my top 3 wrestling intros? Oh, okay. I'm guessing you mean the entrance as far as introductions. Well, Shawn at 25, Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25 was excellent. Undertaker, I think it was it maybe the same year. Whenever we had a bunch of hands reaching up at him, that was with the shadows and everything. That was sweet. Um, I could easily just say Undertaker's. Undertaker entrance is badass. I was in the building when they did the John Cena entrance at WrestleMania 23 when I think he drove that car through the glass and everything. Oh, that was 29 when Undertaker had the hands and everything. Okay, cool. Um, that was badass. Being in the building, of course, makes it a little bit different, but that was pretty badass. As far as John Cena entrances, that was my favorite one. He drove the muscle car because a lot of John Cena entrances don't match his character at all because it's almost impossible to do so because he became basically his character basically just vanished after a while. He just became generic superhero John Cena. All right, top dogs. Fourth question. What's your favorite things about the Ruthless Aggression era? Well, I like the brand split. I like Eddie Guerrero when he finally started getting some attention on WWE at the time. Um, I liked Evolution. Once I started watching Raw again, I liked Evolution. I didn't watch most of the Triple H era. I swear to God. The Elimination Chamber, the introduction of that idea. I love the Elimination Chamber. I remember the first time I watched that match. I watched it on DVD because I bought the Survivor Series 2002 DVD. Didn't know Shawn won the title. Had no idea. I just saw Shawn Michaels on the cover, and I saw this new unique cage match, and I was like, "What is this?" And I got that joint, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I probably watched that match 3 days straight, and it was illuminating. So I love the Elimination Chamber. Of course, they made me hate it because the next one they did was garbage. So I hadn't seen that one either. And then I went and bought SummerSlam, and I was like, "This is the second Elimination Chamber match. This match sucks." But those three things I loved about the Ruthless Aggression era. But the Ruthless Aggression era went way over the top with storytelling, especially the early Ruthless Aggression era was just dumb. It was just dumb stuff. They were doing the what was that? The catfight girls, the Miller Lite catfight girls, and they were doing hot lesbian action, 3 minute warning. It was all just there was some cool stuff in there. Don't get me wrong, but it was a lot of dumb shit too. A lot of dumb shit. All right, all right. So here's another one. His sixth question: favorite tag teams of the '80s and early '90s, WWE and WCW. Um, Steiner Brothers, Road Warriors, Demolition, British Bulldogs, Heart Foundation, Sting and Lex Luger, Doom. I fucking love Doom. One of the I like the WCW tag team division when I go back and watch it. I like that stuff. At the time, I couldn't stand any of it. Like I didn't understand why there were so many Japanese guys. I still don't. Even though I know why they're there, I just don't get why they were there. Yeah. um, but there's so many tag teams that were actually pretty good. I'm watching Wrestling Challenge from 1986 now, so I'm starting to actually see a lot more of like the Moondogs, and I'm seeing more of the Rougeau brothers. Like when they came in as baby faces, they were good. They were good. As far as '90s tag teams, uh, that's a push. I'm gonna have to push on them because I like the Dudleys. They were solidly a '90s tag team. But most of the tag teams I really liked from the '90s were either tag teams from the '80s, like the New Age Outlaws. They were a silent '90s team. But tag team wrestling fell off a cliff in the '90s. It became a lot of just singles guys and tags, and that was a big problem. Um, it's a big problem. NWA has a new version of Doom. They do? Oh, ugh, yuck. Billy Corgan's NWA. I'm guessing that's what you mean, because I'm telling you, it's trifling. That's not good. Oh yeah, Josh Alexander, he sucks. He's a good wrestler, but he sucks. Ninja, one. What is your Mountain Rushmore of wrestling announcers? Announcers. Well, I always liked the announce team for Mid South. I'm trying to remember his name. Um, I always liked the announce team from Mid South and World Class. They weren't perfect, but I love those guys. Gorilla Monsoon. He always was too smart for the product, but I was a big fan of him. Bobby the Brain Heenan. Jesse Ventura was actually very good. Oh, of course, JR and Jody the King Lawler. Um, that was another thing about WCW I didn't really care for. I didn't really care for their announce teams, their commentary teams or anything like that. WWF commentary teams, even Vince. Vince is terrible, but he got an iconic voice. You know, yes, Ross and Bob Caudle. Yeah, that was a Mid South, wasn't it? Yeah. Um. So, shit. There's got to be somebody else. I'm trying to think of it. But I think I said enough. Virgo Rebel Penguin says, "Am I excited for SummerSlam? I'll be more excited once I know what's going to actually happen on the show. Um, once I know, like for sure, who's going to be wrestling on the show, what the main event will be. As we get closer to the show, I'll be definitely be more excited. I was not. I'm kind of excited now because I'm like, it's a big event in the middle of the summer. They never come to Detroit in the summer, so this will be great. Vegeta Lover 92 was punishing himself by watching Impact. I'm guessing you're watching it live. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. I don't think Tony Khan's going to have a choice. I think Goldust's probably going to be backstage. I think he's going to be backstage. He's going to be there one way or another. He's going to be there. He's not going to miss Cody winning the title. So if he doesn't show up, I would be pissed. If I was Cody and my brother didn't show up to me winning the belt, I would be pissed. So either he's going to be front row and center when he wins the title, or he's going to be backstage, one or the other. But Tony Khan's not going to get a choice on that one. WG Phil has 5 questions. 1, why fans don't give credit for Vince's final bookings like the honorary Uce and Finn joining Judgment Day? Well, because a lot of that stuff, he started it, but he's not the reason it works right now. Even though, Triple H was involved with the creative even at the time. But I have a feeling that it would look different if Vince was running it. But he should get credit for doing some of that stuff. Killer Kelly is not bad. They killed her though. She's dead because she's been on that roster for way too long and haven't done anything of note. WG Phil's second question: considering most of the signings are flops, who are the 5 biggest comebacks in your opinion should stick around outside of Bronson and Chelsea they just signed? Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt. I think those 2 are just they should never have been fired in the first place. Everybody else that I would give credit to Chelsea Green because she's at least trying and she didn't get a chance before. Cross, I like Cross. They're not really doing that much with him, but I like Cross. But most of the people they fired, man, I was like, they fired these people for good reason. They fucking suck. They're boring. Like, what the hell? And then Triple H still hasn't created anything good with them. So I probably got a 4, and that was about it. And that includes Chelsea Green. 3, should Carmelo Hayes dethrone Braun Breaker? It would make a good story element that he is the last indie guy Black and Gold NXT was high on. Yeah, I think it's inevitable that he passes that, even though it's kind of weird because I think he's actually older than Braun Breaker. But Braun should probably pass the torch to Carmelo and then go do some character stuff, some off-title character work. And he definitely needs to spend like maybe 4 or 5 months doing just character stuff and not being the champion and not floating around the title. You definitely don't need to be doing that. 4, Lispers Anonymous. Cody is called to the office by Trips and Theory, Dominic and Finn to talk about his opponents after his world title win. So we're going to do like a Cody Rhodes title celebration scene. So we got the champagne and Cody's backstage and he's getting his Ric Flair on. Some strange baby face, I don't know, Kevin Owens or whatever, pouring champagne all over Cody's head. Thank you very much. Kevin Owens, my really good friend. I love watching you wrestle Roman Reigns. I remember when we were in Ring of Honor together. Like, we were never in Ring of Honor together, but I remember when we were in Ring of Honor together, and it was fantastic, and we really had a blast. And I really wish I could share this moment with my dad and hand these championships over to the American Dream. And then who else was supposed to be in this? Let's see. Cause I got so caught up in Cody, I forgot who else was supposed to be in this. Dominic. I don't think I do a good Dominic. My Finn Balor is just constipated Finn Balor. Cody Rhodes, you think you're going to be the WWF champion for much longer? I disagree. I would pay money to see them cut that promo with Finn Balor with veins popping out of his eyeballs and around his head, confront Cody after he won the title. That would be something, wouldn't it? 5. Do you think forcing female main events on Mania is hurting wrestling in long term? Because matches that should main event, like the Owens versus Usos, Sami Zayn, or Kofi versus Daniel Bryan, will get snubbed with a women's title match with no heat or hype for it. I think I think the Bianca Belair Sasha Banks match was a shoehorn. The first women's main event was a shoehorn. I think they did it just to do it, but I don't think they'll do it again. I think next time they have a women's main event, it'll actually be worthy of being the main event. But I can tell you that the 2 times that they have done it, they probably shouldn't have been the main event. Even though Bianca and Sasha was an excellent match, I don't know if it should have been the main event. It would have been just as good in the middle of the show. And there was nothing about that match that said main event anyway. It just makes no sense. All right, AJ3 has 6 questions. 1. Have you ever subscribed to Millionaire Mornings with Anton Daniels? Well, no, because I've never heard of it. 2, true or false, do conservatives or libertarians listen to rap music as well? Yeah, there's plenty of there. I think that there's a lot of conservatives who don't like rap music. A lot of those Matt Walsh, Daily Wire conservatives, the Jason Whitlock conservatives, they don't like rap music. Like the Larry Elder conservatives, they probably don't like rap music. But libertarians, yeah, I'm pretty sure libertarians love rap. It's an art form that people have been persecuted to do. So yeah, of course. 3, do you think Conan was wrong for wanting to book Alberto Del Rio and Marty Scurll because no other promoters would ever book them because of the accusations against them? Well, Marty Scurll is not an accusation. Marty Scurll had sex with a 16-year-old girl, but it was legal in his country. And that was his response. But the age of legality, I think, in Mexico was like 12. So, I mean, it's like 12 or 14 or something like that. It's not that far off, Now, Alberto Del Rio, he has so many different accusations. The domestic violence thing with Paige, the kidnapping, and telling the woman she was going to kill her son or something like that. That was something that was so bizarre. Even I fell into it because I'm like, there's nobody could possibly make this up. But I think that if the people that go see his shows are okay with Marty Scurll being there and okay with Alberto Del Rio being there, what can you do? It's Mexico. Mexico gonna do what they want. They do their own thing. There's a lot of weirdos in Mexico doing stuff. Teddy Hart made a career down there, and he's been doing all kind of weird shit. He made a career out of doing weird stuff. It's very it sucks. I can tell you that. But I'm not against Conan booking them. They're not in prison. Marty Scurll probably should be. Somebody should break his fingers. That's for sure. Somebody should definitely break Marty Scurll's fingers. AJ3's 4th question: what areas of Detroit are you never visit or don't care for? Oh, the North End. I grew up near there, man. And I grew up near there because my friends used to live there. So right on that border of Highland Park. Oh, oof. And I know somebody who got murdered over there. I hate the North End. I hate it. I don't really have any reason to go on the West Side, but I hate the North End. I hate the North End. I hate it with a passion. I can't fucking stand the North End. Ugh. It's garbage. It's Woodward right near Highland Park. It's awful. Just poverty and sadness. Highland Park is sad. Highland Park fucking sucks. And it's real bad. I stay away from those areas. I stay away from Mexican Town too, just because I know everybody over there speaks fucking Spanish, so I stay away from there too. But I do. I did go grocery shopping over there once. That was interesting. That was something. And near Hamtramck, so that would be near Conant Gardens, I think, where Jay Dilla is from. The in that area, the Conant area. You know, with the first time I ever saw honey with a comb in it was the Arabs when I was a teenager, and I was like, God, they he might as well have been selling eyeballs or something like that. I was like, ugh, let's get the fuck out of here. I turned around and got out of that store quick. I'm like, why they eating honeycombs? I didn't know that shit was edible. So I'm like, get the hell out of here. No way. 5. What's your take on James Gunn's new direction for the DC universe? I don't think this guy knows what he's doing. You know, I don't. You got to know these characters, and you have to know why um, each character exists, and you have to emphasize each character. I don't think James Gunn can do that. I think he's going to turn everybody into a comedy character. That's what it feels like to me. Like everybody's going to do comedy. Top Dog, are you reading comments from the chats too, or are you just doing the comment section? Well, I've been doing both the entire time. If I see something interesting in the chat, I'll comment on the chat. But mostly, I'm going through the comments. But oh shit, we at the end of the comments already. For it seems like, Mitch Colburn. Why do people overrate guys like Magnum TA and Harley Race so much? Sorry, but I find them boring. Oh, wow. That's a stiff shot. I understand why you might not like them. I understand why you might not like them. But Harley Race is fun to watch. Magnum TA is fun to watch. They are not superstars. They're wrestlers. There's a difference. Magnum TA was not selling his personality. He had a solid look, and his charisma was not nearly what Dusty wanted it to be. I think everybody was like, he's going to be the world champion. I was kind of like, I don't know about that. But I never saw a Magnum TA match that I hated. You know, his feud with Tully Blanchard was really good. Tully, of course, carried the story from there with him and the Four Horsemen and everything. And it did seem like they were carrying Magnum TA, because when he did his story with Mr. Wrestling 2, a lot of that was Mr. Wrestling 2. Magnum TA just basically stood there. He didn't actually do anything, but that's the knock I would have on Magnum TA. He had good matches. He had good angles, but he did not, I don't feel he contributed that much. I felt like it was people who were really good working around him. Flair working around him, bumping for him, doing really good stuff with him. But I generally liked Magnum TA. I wouldn't say he's like Lex Luger. I think he's a better wrestler than Lex Luger. I think he's better than Lex Luger. But I think mostly what people are hype about Magnum TA was his potential. He died before he didn't die. I'm sorry. He got paralyzed. His career was over. I don't think he got paralyzed. His career was over before it really got started. So I was wrong twice. He not only did not get paralyzed, he also did not die. he was in a motorcycle accident or something like that. Or a car accident or something. It ended his career. And a lot of what people say about Magnum TA is, oh, he would have been. It was the same thing with Kerry Von Erich. If Kerry hadn't lost his foot and would have gone to the WWF with whole 100%, I think he definitely would have been a much bigger star. He still would have had the drug problem. He still probably would have killed himself, but he'd have been a much bigger star. They probably wouldn't have took the Intercontinental title from him so quickly if he was whole. And he's a nut to wrestle with one foot. To have I think, was it a wood foot? It was some kind of prosthetic foot that he had. He's crazy to wrestle with that thing. That shit sounds dangerous, bro. It sounds like it hurts too. But the same thing can be said for Brian Pillman. A lot of Brian Pillman was potential. People know what Brian Pillman could do. You know, he had that accident shortly before Vince signed him, limited his ability to wrestle. So a lot of people are like, man, if we'd have got 95 Brian Pillman in 98 to feud with Steve Austin, it would have been excellent. And that's true. But I don't, it's hard to say because if he hadn't had that accident, would Vince have even, would he have just jobbed him out? What would he have done? Part of the reason why Brian Pillman went, around so long is because he was injured, but we don't know. So a lot of that is potential. A lot of it is if this guy hadn't died, this is what would have happened. Like Eddie Guerrero was supposed to win the title again, but he died, It was unfortunate. Hayabusa was one of the worst botches ever seen. Look, I saw that thing one time. I watched Hayabusa get paralyzed one time. I will never watch that again. Tien Pyro, Sid or Lex. That's easy. Sid. Sid is a prototype. Sid is a prototypical pro wrestler. If you were building a pro wrestler in a lab, either you'd come out as Randy Orton or Psycho Sid. One or the other. I'm leaning more towards Sid. He couldn't cut a promo. His brain was inside his head backwards sometimes. But man, the look, the intensity, the non-smart nature of him, I love Sid. Sid is the master and the ruler of the world. And it rules because Sid filled in for the Ultimate Warrior when he skipped that fucking show I was at when I was 12 years old. I was definitely sick about that because I wanted to see Ultimate Warrior. I wanted to see him so bad. And he flaked on me. But there, Sid was there. Sid always had my back. Sid's the man. They need to put him in the Hall of Fame. Speaking of Hall of Fame, why they ain't announced anybody for the Hall of Fame yet? It's taking forever. They should have announced Hall of Famers at the Royal Rumble. What character would you have Brian Breaker be as a heel? Well, not a heel version of his dad, that's for sure. Rick Steiner as a heel was not good. I don't know. Maybe just be a dickhead, a dickhead bully. I don't know. I would need to know more about him. Now that I know he fishes and all that shit, I'm like, why do I care about him fishing? This is the question I was supposed to answer. Black saying 97. A lot of people are saying Sami should dethrone Roman. Do you agree with that? Well, I disagree because I'm a state of course kind of guy. If let's say Cody got injured over the weekend, then yes, save it for Sami. If Cody shatters his collarbone, he can't make WrestleMania, then yep, get a belt to Sami because Cody can't go. If Cody can wrestle, which, unless he's in a severe car accident or the moon falls on him, he's probably going to be there. Then Cody needs to get the title because you've already set that story up. It's already there. I think people just want to have that sentimental favorite when it comes to Sami Zayn. They just want that sentimental story. I even saw somebody say, have Sami winning in Montreal just to lose it back the next day. And I just looked at that shit. I'm like, man, these people don't think. You're not even thinking. You're taking all the piss out of what Cody's about to do here. The whole reason you want to finally see somebody beat Roman is for that catharsis. Once you have it, it's just like when Lex Luger beat Sting. Lex Luger beat Hogan before Sting beat him. That's not what you do. If you already have it planned that Cody is going to be the one to beat Roman, nobody beats Roman before Cody. Not The Rock, not Sami Zayn, nobody. Don't have anybody beat this man before Cody does it. If you want to have Sami Zayn beat him at SummerSlam or something like that to culminate the story, I'm still not a big fan of it, but go for it. Do whatever you're going to do. But when it comes to dropping the belts or whatever the case may be, you got to go with Cody. He is your best bet. But I do understand why people want Sami Zayn. It fits the story, and it's a better story. It's a more compelling story right now. The Cody and Paul Heyman story is, it did a good job of keeping Cody in there. Um, so that was nice. It was nice. Let's see. Grayson Waller or Austin Theory? Oh, Grayson Waller. I love Austin Theory, no doubt. If Grayson Waller had Austin Theory's body type, I would say put the fucking belt on Grayson Waller. Easy. But he doesn't have that, the definition in his muscles and everything. And what's happening is both of them are getting fucked over with bad booking. But Grayson Waller easily, because losses don't hurt him, it don't bother him. He's rubber. He bounces right back. He's gonna be back on TV next week. Everything's gonna be great. He's gonna be fine. DeMarcus Kane. What's your take on Toxic Attraction breakup copying the Rockers? I saw it as soon as they did it. I saw it happening. I kind of shrugged. I didn't hate it. I didn't think of it as a problem. It was a different version of it. Of course, it didn't hit as hard because you can't copy angles. Nobody had ever seen anything like tag team partners have turned on each other as long as there's been tag teams in wrestling. But something like what they did with the Rockers had never been done before. The violence of it, with one man throwing another one through a glass window, like that's nuts, right? That's deep-seated bitterness from who knows, a long time ago. Here, they had already teased them splitting up 2 weeks before. They had already had them fight in the pay-per-view. They were fighting each other. So this was like the natural next step was for them to break up. Now the vicious nature of JC James' kick to the face, that was unique. That one was pretty good. Got to give a girl credit for that one. That's the kind of stuff the girls need, though. They need those kind of big moments, because women's wrestling don't have a lot of them. They need those big moments. Let's see. Let's keep going down. G Coalition brother number 17. He couldn't cut a promo. I beg to defer. We need more insane characters like Sid in the wrestling business. We definitely do. But when Sid says like, I have half the brain that you do, I'm like, huh? I'm half the man that you are, and I have half the brain that you do. Like, what? Yeah. What? At least when Sid was nuts and yelling into the camera, that was great. The We're Live pal, that was great. Okay, we need more Ultimate Warriors, more Sids. I agree. I was watching again. Whenever I'm watching something, I get very excited about it. I'm probably not going to finish the year, but I'm watching 1986 Wrestling Challenge, and Roman Reigns' daddy was on there eating a fucking raw fish, and the Wizard is yelling at the camera about something or other, something about being reincarnated, and some other nonsense about Samoan cannibal warriors or whatever. And I'm sitting here watching Sika chew this fucking raw fish, and I'm sitting here like, if I was watching this as a kid, how would I feel about this? Like, I would think these people are psychotic. Like he's sitting here chewing a raw fish. Like this is nuts. But what's even crazier than that? Babyface Honky Tonk Man. I wanted to vomit. And Honky Tonk Man and Butch Reed made their debuts on the same show. That was cool. They kept calling him Mr. Natural. Not The Natural, but Mr. Natural. Nothing natural about that blonde hair, I can tell you that, Butch Reed. No, do not dye bronze hair blonde. Don't do that. Don't do him like that. What Top Dog? What's your thoughts on WWE teasing HBK versus Grayson Waller work versus Boss Feud? I think it could work since HBK used to be the rebellious guy. It's gonna turn Waller babyface. I wouldn't do it. It's gonna turn him babyface. Don't do it. Nobody ever sides with the boss ever. Like in modern day, like back in the past, you would have a general manager or something like that that was, screw with a wrestler or whatever, and the crowd would love it. Maybe if he really plays up being a heel like the Miz or something like that, but in a feud with the wrestler, I don't see how that could work out for any other way than Grayson Waller ends up turning babyface, because he's gonna be poor put upon Grayson Waller, and Mino. They're not gonna boo Shawn Michaels or anything like that, but it's gonna be Shawn's being a dickhead again. We all love Grayson Waller. And a lot of people like Grayson Waller already as it is. So you're gonna have a hard enough time keeping him a heel. You know, he's starting to win people over. I'm proud to say that this channel was one of the first ones that was really putting over Grayson Waller. Black Sand 97. A lot of people are saying MJF is a stale champion and he should lose the belt. Well, he was stale before he won the belt. I mean, he just was. I think he did some really good work with CM Punk. But when he came back with, some fire. And it kind of fizzled out, It kind of fizzled out. He needs something to get him rolling again, I don't know what that could be. He probably just needs somebody to play off of. I think that's really when he did his best work, is when he had somebody to play with, somebody that he could bounce off of. Punk or Jericho or Cody or Moxley. They haven't let him go back and forth with Danielson yet. And maybe now that the title match is set, they could do that for the next 3 weeks or whatever. But it's an opportunity to change things around so people won't think he's so boring and stale or whatever. I don't know. What happened to wrestling managers? I think Vince just got tired of paying for them. So he just said, fuck them. Just like tag teams. Plus, the wrestlers got good at talking, and Vince started making guys take acting classes and everything. So now the wrestler himself can do his own talking. Even back in the day, Mr. Perfect had a manager. Rick Rude, who can cut a promo on his own, he had a manager. But now today, if you can talk for yourself, they don't really give you a manager. And it's pretty much, you should absolutely be good at talking on your own. But a lot of these guys, once Vince started forcing them to take acting classes and stuff like that, these guys got a little bit better at cutting promos. They got a little bit more comfortable. And therefore, the need for managers diminished. Now managers exist only to cheat. And we kind of gave up on the cheating manager too, which we sorely need in the wrestling business, is some cheating managers. Do you think Shawn Michaels needs another person to help him with the booking? He does he has somebody helping him. That I think it's that fucking guy who does the podcast with Road Dogg. I think he's the one helping in NXT, right? His name is like Jason Katz or something like that. He was a writer in NXT before. I think he got fired when a bunch of other people got fired, and Road Dogg got fired. And then I think they brought him back when they brought Road Dogg back. I'm not sure. Because it could be that is not true, but I'm thinking it. Look at what Nia Jax did for what? What did Nia Jax do? Oh, what she do for Becky? Oh, she broke her face. That's what she did. That's what, she helped her out by breaking her face. So yeah, that's definitely gonna help Gigi. With JC putting her boot through her head, it's gonna actually help her out. Looney Tunes kick to the fucking face. It's gonna be some sympathy. What they need to do, they need to not cover that up with makeup. She should just come out on NXT Tuesday wearing some shades and had a gigantic bruise on her face. And she could cut a promo on that bruise on her face about how she's going to get her hands on JC Jane, what she's going to do. That's what it needs to be done. That's old school, baby. When Ricky Steamboat got DDT'd on the floor, he had black eyes. And he was wearing shades. He took those shades off. and you saw them 2 black eyes he had from that DDT on that floor. You was like, this man is mad. This guy is serious. Jake Roberts tried to fuck him up. Don't hide your injuries. That's the crazy. Like I was talking about this before, like battle damage. Don't hide the battle damage. Cut the promo with the chest all chopped up, and then it didn't make that promo unique. It didn't make that promo stand out. Let me tell you something I saw on Wrestling Challenge while y'all dudes are talking. I believe it was Randy Savage and Jake the Snake Roberts cut a promo together. I'm telling you. It's like being in a bizarro world. I never thought those 2 guys had ever done anything like that before. And Macho Man's the Intercontinental Champion, and Jake Roberts is Jake Roberts. He never won anything. He never did anything. But the way they played off of each other, I was like, holy shit. I want these 2 guys to hang out every week. Like I want a Randy Savage, Jake Roberts promo every week. Of course, it was short-lived, but I loved it. It was fantastic. Let's see. What's my funniest wrestling moment? There's new funny moments pretty much every week, dog. When I was a kid, one of my favorite moments was when the rope broke for Yokozuna because he was so fat. God, that shit had me dying. I was laughing pretty much for the first 15 minutes of SummerSlam, '96 that year. Oh God, I thought that was the funniest shit in the world. I didn't get it like it was a fat joke. I just thought it was some silly, hilarious shit that happened. Nowadays, of course, you look at it, you're like, this guy was a world champion 2 years before this, and now he can't even climb the rope without it breaking on him. That's garbage. He's losing on the kickoff show or the free for all. He lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin in the free for all. He was a world champion a year or so before that. Yikes. Grayson Waller coming out with the Island Soccer Girls and the other girls was a star moment, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people woke up. They realized that they were serious about Grayson Waller. I just wish they got serious about him earlier. After his match with AJ Styles, they definitely went out of their way to make Grayson Waller not that important on the show. And then people kind of forgot that he was really good. I was, again, one of the few people yelling about how good he was and how Sean was dropping the ball, and then he finally got it together. Good job, Sean. Yeah, shout out to Bush Reed, man. Shout out to Bush Reed. He was so good. He was really good. I think he came to the WWF at the wrong time, though. I think a lot of guys came when they was all washed up. Harley Race, he was toast. When he came to the WWE, he was toast. Dusty, too, toast. Flair was in his 40s. He wasn't completely dusted, but he was over the hill. He was just over his prime. But Butch Reed, Junkyard Dog, those guys, they weren't in top shape when they came in. Even though Butch Reed looked great, he was coming off of a solid run in Mid-South, but he wasn't really killing it. But I don't think they got what they could have gotten out of Butch Reed. And he had so much talent. I remember what you said about Sean always wanted to bury the big guys. What is happening in modern day wrestling? There are no more big guys dominating just like basketball. There are no more centers anymore. I think somebody came in there and reminded Sean of like when he was told that these guys are not going to sell for you. Like, remember that. Remember when they said they weren't going to sell for you, Sean? Remember they said they weren't going to sell for you, Sean? But it's a shame, man. I don't know why it's this way, but it is, and it's unfortunate. But wait a minute, there's more questions from the joint. Darren Miles has questions, but why didn't it show up in my feed? All right, I'm gonna answer Darren Miles' question. There's a lot of questions here too. One, do you think all the red pill content and gender war propaganda is all part of the government's plan to have both sexes to hate each other? I think it is more a reaction to government actions. Like, you got to think about things. A lot of things people are, the progressives are reactionary, the reactionaries are reactionary, right? So the progressives, they're reacting to what they call the patriarchy, which literally did exist. Men trying to protect women. A lot of things, men were trying to protect women. So they wouldn't let women own guns. They couldn't own property, that sort, so they couldn't vote. All that kind of stuff is men being overprotective of women. So women fought back. They wanted to vote, all that kind of stuff. And we went from there to affirmative action for women to now preference towards women. And so now a lot of the men are just reacting to the preference towards women. Like it was one thing when, women weren't really a threat to society or threat towards your place in society, had no government authority behind them. But now they have legitimate government authority behind them. It's a completely different ballgame. Now that's what guys are responding to. Even moderate, not even you could say red pill guys. They're just noticing that every woman demand comes with the stick of government. A woman says she wants X, Y, or Z. It almost immediately becomes a conversation point. The reason why they started talking about free college, they never talking about free college until women became the majority of college students. Then all of a sudden, college should be free, because again, there's a desperate fear of saying no to women or having women be responsible for themselves. Treating women like children. The patriarchy. This time it's just the women trying to manipulate the patriarchy. Darren Miles, what's your thought on the black pill? Well, the black pill, for those of you who know, is basically nihilism. Nothing matters anymore. It's all going to get destroyed. And I think there's some truth to it. I think things have to get worse before they get better, because it has to become unbearable before people start to really react. The average person is not affected enough by any individual thing for them to react the way that they should. Like, libertarians are very sensitive to things, but they're sensitive to things that people don't generally care about. Like, you see like a lot of libertarians yelling about taxation. They're yelling about small things like government regulations and corruption in government. Most people don't care about that kind of stuff. I'm practical. I understand that if you have a big enough scandal, people will care. But what you generally have is so many people in government is corrupt that the average person don't pay that shit no attention. Or they'll think, well, my side is not corrupt. Your side might be corrupt. It might be Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, but not Trump. Trump's not corrupt. Maybe, and then Republicans, they'll come back a couple of years later and be like, oh, Nixon was corrupt or Bush was corrupt. But for the most part, everybody just defends their side, and that's the average person. The average person is focused on family and getting up, going to work every day. Once they start losing their jobs, they might start paying attention. Once, they can't afford their house, that's when they started paying attention. And then by that point, they listen to enough, media, whether it's liberal media or conservative media, that they have a very simple explanation for it. It's to blame either, blame taxes. Nobody blames taxes, what they should. I shouldn't say taxes. And maybe blame illegal immigrants, blame homeowners, blame landlords. Your rent's going up because of your landlord. These people don't even know nothing about the local policies that cause the landlords to raise the rent. They're not paying attention to that. They don't really care. They're not focused on that. And the landlords don't tell them either. The landlords should, I think, and I've heard of people doing this, and they usually get rammed in the media for doing it. But when the government is going to do something that is going to affect your business, you should tell people that are involved in your business. For instance, if they're going to pass a law that is going to say that you can't kick people out of their homes or whatever, you can't evict people, you're going to have a natural reaction to that. You should write up a pamphlet. You already own the home, the apartment complex or whatever. It needs to be stuck on every single door. This is what's going to happen when the government passes this project. It is a absolute one-to-one reaction. They do this, I'm doing this. This is how it's going to affect you. Don't blame me. Blame the state. People don't do that. Like, I saw where, there's like a corporation or something like that would do that. They're talking about raising the cost of steel or whatever. Here's how that's going to affect you. They need to have like meetings. I don't understand why, if you run a corporation or whatever, you don't have like regular meetings talking about this stuff, breaking it down so people can understand it. Don't let them get their information from TV. Get it from you. You're the bosses. You're the guys who have to deal with like the unions and stuff. Collect that information and say, because Trump went on a trade war with China, the cost of steel increased. So because the cost of steel increased, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen from that. And this is why that's happening. Don't blame us for our reaction to what they're doing. They're doing this. If they start coming up with crazy regulations, talk to your people who are going to work with you about the regulations. So once the average person starts to really get some information, it's going to take a while because it's been like the boiling frog for 40 fucking years. It just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. And sooner or later, people are going to be fucking cooked. And that's when things really are going to change. But it's going to take a while because they're not going to notice it immediately. I think it's the third question. Do you think anti-bullying propaganda works in schools? It does not. I think, see, that's the weird thing, right? If you talk to both the left and the right about things like telling kids not to have sex, not to smoke cigarettes, not to steal, not to do drugs, kids do that shit anyway. So why would they have an anti-bullying propaganda campaign when they know that kids are just not going to listen? They're just not going to listen. But what has changed is the teachers and all of them, how they react to bullying. They act like it's the worst possible thing that could happen to you now is that you were bullied. And sometimes for kids that is the worst thing because their social circles is trying to shape them. And not every kid's going to fit the same mold. So they need bullying because they need the adversity. Kids need to know who their friends are and who their friends will probably never be. And that's how you learn. You learn that through adversity. You learn that through bullying. That leftist, bullshit is going to try to make everybody friends. It doesn't work that way. You can't make everybody friends. Everybody is not going to get along. You have to stop people from harassing one another and physically abusing one another. Yes. But you can't force everybody to be friends. The best you could do is say, not everybody's going to get along. Teach people to better understand each other and to basically stay out of each other's way. But anti-nothing, it doesn't work. It never works. Here's another question from Darren Miles. What would a person that has serious depression who also feels like a social reject or an outcast? All right, this is a tough question because a lot of people who have depression, they get isolative. They will stay to themselves, and they basically become a social reject. They, not that they hate themselves, but they basically have a poisoned mindset against themselves. And the only way for you to really get through it is to get some serious help, and then to slowly but surely gain some confidence back. You need some people who actually like you and want to spend some time with you, but only a little bit at a time. You can't just, well, you're depressed, go out and make some friends, go to the club. It's like, no, because then nobody's going to become their friend. You're going to make them worse. You know, this is the good, positive thing about social media. If you have like a depression or something like that, you can make friends on social media. You don't have to leave your house, but they can help you build your confidence, you know? Um, and once you start to sort of build your confidence, you start feeling somewhat good about yourself. You still may have bouts of depression. You may even still have serious enough depression where you need to go to a hospital. But your confidence and your faith in yourself can actually be improved quite a bit if you work at it a little at a time. You know, you might have to do something where you go to places by yourself and just to participate and have fun. Like, there's always some small things that you could go out in public and do. You know, it used to be back in the day, you would be able to go to like a church function or something like that, and you didn't have to go with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or anything like that. You could just go, and you can go there and you have fun. And it should make you be okay. You're still around people who have a similar interest, and you might be able to make friends there. But you should definitely, if you're a serious enough depression, you should definitely get some help, and you should fix yourself before you start, trying to make friends. But you definitely need friends in order to pull yourself out of the depression. It's going to help. Um, Here's another question: what's a wrestler that you liked as a kid but now hate as an adult? Oh, let's see. Hmm. What wrestler did I like as a kid but hate as an adult? I don't think there is one. I can't think of one. Um, I legit can't think of one. Um, Here's another question: has society fallen? Well, no, because we're not eating each other yet. You know, I think that we're looking at a society that is crumbling. The amount of homelessness in like California and New York and in blue areas is really disturbing. People not being able to afford their own homes is disturbing. Um, the desire for the state to decide what kind of cars you should drive and people being incredibly welcoming to that is disturbing. Uh, COVID, I think, was as close to society falling as we was going to get for a while. How many people just very quickly threw needles in their arm and threw a mask on and stayed away from each other? And people were so scared of the virus, they were willing to fight people. Like, you would think you would be so scared you would run away from them, you know. But they were so scared they behaved illogically, and they actually ran towards people who were not masked and not vaccinated in order to yell at them. It was so bizarre, you know. But until it becomes like The Walking Dead or something like that, society has not fallen. It's just slowly but surely turning sour. It's not being what we wanted it to be. Do you think more people are nihilistic than before? Yes, I do. I think there's an entire generation of nihilists because they, generally speaking, a lot of them grew up with leftist propaganda being dumped into their heads all the time. So they think the world is worse than it really is. They have what's called mean world syndrome. They think that there's chronically school shootings, and they think that there's chronically the world is just going to collapse on itself. Everything is so awful, climate change, everything, and nothing matters anymore. We're all going to die because of the climate or whatever. It's like a lot of that stuff is just shit that have been dumped into their heads from watching too much TV, too much social media. Not going outside and touching grass and getting some air. You know, I'm just saying like basic shit. Like when you don't have anything really going for yourself, and or something that you really want to do seems so far away, it can become nihilistic when you don't understand why your parents have the ability to own things and you don't. I get why you may become nihilistic, but you have to educate yourself on why that would be, why that is happening. And it's happening for a very specific reason. You have to, wake up to it. And that's when you pull yourself from the black pill and you understand that in order for things to change, you have to push and, promote that change. You have to look at something different. Um, how do you deal with anime or wrestling burnout? Well, it's simple. You just stay away from it for a while. Like I had an anime burnout. I think I'm pretty much anime burnt out right now. you know, I watched. Yeah, I was here. I watched Bleach with y'all, and then I kind of was like, I need a break from anime. So now I watch the weekly episode of Trigun that comes out, and I watch the episode of My Hero Academia when it comes out, and then that's it. I don't watch any other anime. I've gone back and started watching old wrestling. I'm gonna burn out on that one eventually, and I'll probably go back to watching anime, or I'll go watch movies or something like that. But I mix it up. That's why I still have piles and piles of unread stuff. It's because I started reading manga, and then I get tired of reading manga, and I want to read like a regular, good old American comic book, and I get those every Tuesday and Wednesday. Even though I can't pick them up until Fridays, then I go get those and I read them. And then by the time I get done reading them, I'm ready to read more manga. And I can do that, just bounce back and forth. I keep options, keep your options open. Why is the wrestling community so toxic? Well, because a lot of the people are in it are dude bros who are in their mid 40s who grew up as wrestling fans, and either they're kind of growing out of it, or they have become incredibly politically tribal. You know, I think I blame Tony Khan for it a long time ago, but it's not his fault. It's been like this for a while. It's been a lot of it is the wrestling media, just like the general American media. They have cultivated an audience of people who are hateful and full of I don't know what you want to call it. Um, just nutty people, man. Just really nutty people. And I don't know what else, what else to say. How wrestling escaped from this only for nerds or nerd culture? Well, you have to open up wrestling for other people. You know, you have to create a product that will, reach to the mainstream. That being said, um I don't want wrestling to be mainstream. Not right now anyway. Look at what's mainstream right now. Look at the Grammys. Some fat white dude wearing a BDSM outfit with devil horns, you know, all this gay shit. That's what's mainstream right now. Do you want that for wrestling? I don't want wrestling to be mainstream right now. I don't want wrestling to be mainstream right now. I don't want a bunch of fucking Sam Smiths or uh fucking little Uzi Verts or whatever fucking around in wrestling. I don't want that. I'm cool with wrestling having a diminishing audience as long as it's not full of fucking weirdos. Now, yeah, some of the weirdos like Johnny Gargano and the Elite, you know, I'm not a big fan of those guys, but at least they're not satanic, running around in BDSM outfits, worshiping Satan and all that other nonsense. At least they don't have that going for them. That's a positive. And I'm not gonna pretend that that's not a positive. That's a fucking positive right there if I ever heard one. I don't want to deal with that at all. Okay. I think you got a couple of more questions. Let's see. What did you like better, Spider-Man the animated series or Batman the animated series, and how come we don't have top quality cartoons anymore? Well, the latter question is because of the I've kind of been learning a little bit. I might not be 100% right on this, but the way that they train the animators are different now. You know, that Cal art style of animation has become very popular, and now everything looks the same. You know, has the same Cartoon Network type of feel to it, and I don't like that. As far as I like Batman or Spider Man more, I was more of a Spider Man fan at the time. I haven't seen any episodes of Spider Man since then, though. I would really love to be able to sit down and watch Spider Man the animated series, and maybe I will. Maybe I will. Maybe that's something I should try to do. Because I love me some Spider Man the animated series. It was fun. That was my Peter Parker too. How come younger wrestlers don't listen to older wrestlers? Well, I think we discussed about this a couple of weeks ago. That a lot of them, you know, they they were just taught that wrestling is an art form, and the older wrestlers are out of touch. And a lot of that comes from Meltzer overrating matches, giving guys 10 stars for mid ass matches. And that's just kind of what they've been doing for a while. And they don't feel like they have to listen to him anymore. You know, why listen to an older wrestler who never got 5 stars from Meltzer? I got 5 stars from Meltzer because I did all of the flips. You know, and it is what it is. Do an Eddie Kingston impression about his beef with Rick Ross. Hmm. I think I did an Eddie Kingston video. I think I did that. I think I did the Eddie Kingston joint. I did like a whole 10-minute Eddie Kingston impression the day before. I'm gonna get an Eddie Kingston joint a break. I don't like doing impressions too much. You know, you do it too much, it becomes like a crutch. It becomes a gimmick. Ben, get it in. Would you book for WWE if the opportunity was available? Yes, I would. I would like to. I would like to be in there just for the process to see how the process goes. Um, I would want to work for like I would want to do all the options. I want to work for Vince, Triple H, Stephanie, and Paul Heyman just to see like the philosophies of who was involved. I definitely would want to do it. But I want to do it like long term forever. It depends on whether I liked it or not. But I would definitely be the guy who is not really pitching angles, but would definitely be in there saying, what would this character do? How should this character react to this situation? And pitching characters to guys, not necessarily writing stories, but making sure everybody has a character. Everybody has a purpose to be on the screen. When it comes to writing actual stories, yeah, I could do that too, but I think that's where they need most of the help is there needs to be a reason for these people to be on the screen. If they're going to be there to entertain you, then they they should at least have a persona that entertains people. Like Coco Beware, he wasn't a top guy, but he should he had an entertaining persona, you know? Let's see. Vegeta 1192. Did you see where Jake Roberts said Kenny Omega is better than Ric Flair? Uh I heard about that. I read about it. It was so absurd that I really just I shrugged because I'm like, you know, the guy uh Jake Roberts has some very weird wrestling takes. You know, he has some very, very weird wrestling takes. Top Dog said, I know my man Mongo was excited when that Island Girl came out at Vengeance Day. Man, let me tell you, I contained myself. Like I didn't even mention those girls because I didn't want to go too far, and you know, I didn't want to go too far. But yeah, they had some pictures of the little soccer chick too, man, and her little get up. It was nice. Maybe I ought to find them and post and put them in my community section. Um, Managers should be in wrestling not just to talk on behalf of wrestlers, but to help establish more wrestlers. You would think so. You would think so. Uh, WG feel I missed face paint battle damage from Sting and Warrior. Yeah, like that used to be so much fun. Like it would be nice if Asuka was to do something like that. I don't think they would have her wrestle a match long enough for her face paint to start to crack and come off. Usually they don't, but that's what they need to do. They need to start selling those stories, man. That's a very visual story. And whenever the Warrior was in a really hard match, his face paint would crack, and you know his face wouldn't even be covered sometimes. When at the end of the match, his face wouldn't even be covered. So you know he was in a war, and he looked like he was really good. Um, Cody didn't hide the battle damage. Look where he is now. Right, he didn't hide that shit. He exposed it. Let it be seen. Let people see the what's like. It's so weird. Like wrestling is pretend fighting, but sometimes real shit happens. Let's see the real shit when it happens. Don't run from it. You know, show it. Show it. Show the scars. Show the scratches. Guys go on Twitter and be like, look at my chest. I'm like, fuck that. Go to a promo and say, look at my chest. Look what this guy did to me and I still won. Look what this guy did to me. Look what this guy had to do to me to beat me. That would be crazy. Black Say 97. How many years do you think AJ Styles has left? I think it's about 2. He's gone for a long time now. I think he's going to want to work one more year. I don't know how long this contract is, but he said once his contract is over, he's done. I think it's a 2-year contract or something like that. I agree. Grayson Waller is amazing. He's 32 though. That's wild. Should Dominic change his last name to Guerrero when he's feuding with Ray again? No. I wouldn't go that far. That's just too damn far. What I would do is that I would call Conan to be in his corner. That's what I would do. Conan hasn't been on WWE TV in years, like decades. So if Conan was to come out at WrestleMania to be in Dominic's corner, that would be amazing. And he could say, maybe Ray could say, if I beat, I don't know, Damian Priest, then Judgment Day is banned from ringside during our match at WrestleMania. You have the match, Ray wins by some fluky way, so Judgment Day can't come to ringside. You have Ray come out for WrestleMania, he does a big entrance because Ray always gets a big entrance. Then Dominic comes out, but he doesn't come out alone. He comes out with Conan. Conan technically is not a member of Judgment Day, so he can come out there. And that would be great. You can't have Eddie, so introduce Conan. Conan is just as important. He is more important to Rey Mysterio's career than Eddie Guerrero. So I would give Conan a really good moment at WrestleMania. Everybody would know who he is. Really put him over. Maybe even have him and Ray have words or whatever before the match. Conan's trying to cheat on Dominic's behalf. That could be. You could really do something there. That would be great. What are your thoughts on the whole generation versus generation stuff, like the old generation versus the new young generation? I think it's stupid and unnecessary. I think that I've blamed the older people for a lot of stuff. I legitimately do, because they voted themselves into problems. I'm guessing you mean wrestling. And wrestling is kind of silly. And politics is also kind of silly. But it's actually more true in politics because, the damage we do to the world now, to the political system, our children have to inherit that. In wrestling, it's always going to be 3 kinds of people running around and wrestling at the same time. The people who have already been there for a while, the people who are trying to get in, and the people who are just coming into their prime. And that's going to be the real issue, is the people who's just coming into their prime trying to break through and get the other people out of the way. There's always going to be people younger than them who are still going to be looking at who are trying to break through. He says, I hate how schools just break up fights like kids need to fight because it teaches them lessons. Don't fight in school. I will say that. fighting in school is always gonna get the fight broken up. But you also have to realize that fighting is dangerous. So, you know, you can seriously hurt somebody in a fight. So I'm not going to say, go ahead and throw hands, but, there needs to be some kind of healthy physical outlet where kids can fight because sometimes you need to fight. Shit. It's weird. Sometimes people need to fight. Black Sand 97. Any mangas or animes that you dropped because it was so bad. For me, it was Kill la Kill. I pushed through Kill la Kill. I really did. The first time I quit because it was terrible. It's a terrible show. I quit on Gantz. I quit like 2 episodes before Gantz was over. I was literally watching. I was watching that show. I was like, I hate this show. I hate all of these characters. I knew the show was over in like 2 episodes. I was looking ahead, and I was like, I don't even care to finish it. I just quit. I just gave up. Like, this show sucks. I don't care what's happening anymore. Like, I can't root for any of the characters. Most of the time, I quit on Fooly Cooley too. I hate that fucking show. I know a lot of people like FL, CL. I hate that fucking show. I cannot stand Fooly Cooley. It's trash. I hated Big O as a kid too, but I like it now. Unfortunately, I didn't see the end of Big O. I just seen the original series that they showed on Adult Swim. They didn't never show the finish to Big O on Adult Swim, so I never seen it. I do have the DVD box set, but they didn't get the finish on there. I think it's actually technically a second series. I haven't quit any manga, not lately anyway. Well, I haven't quit any manga at all. I've never quit a manga. I've quit some comic book series because they got boring. Uh, Iron Man, for instance, Dan Slott's Iron Man. That shit was a waste of my fucking money. That shit was giving me an aneurysm every other week. I was like, this book sucks. Well, I got it because Tony had a fucking Gundam in like the first issue. I was like, okay, Tony's, it might be good. It might be good. 5 issues later, I'm like, oh hell no, I'm about to die watching this shit. Let's see. Gunter is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion since the Honky Tonk Man. He needs to pass the Honky Tonk Man. That's what needs to happen. That record stood for too long. It's time to break it. It says 300 tickets left for Elimination Chamber. I think they keep opening up more seats. It technically is sold out, but they keep opening up more seats. I don't know why they keep doing that, but they're doing it. Yeah, it's Fooly Cooley is garbage. I hate that fucking show. God, like that show was so damn good. I was like, ugh, I hate that fucking show. Thoughts on trash TV from the 90s? Were you a fan of it? The Jerry Springer stuff, I used to watch some of it in the middle of the day. Jenny Jones. I wouldn't say I was a fan, but it was kind of like it was the only thing that was on. But it wasn't like I was glued to my TV set because of fucking Jerry Springer. It was I realized Jerry Springer was stupid, and I was like 14, and I knew it was dumb. Like, this shit can't possibly be real. That's back when I was calling everything fake. That's when I started calling the NFL at work. Like, when I found out wrestling was fake, I was like, well, fuck it, everything's fake. The NBA is fake, the NFL is fake, everything's fake. Let's see. Managers were noticeably gone by 2012. Yeah, when like Brock became the only person with a manager. He was the only one. Darren Moss says, how come I don't like LeBron James? I was there when they first started hyping LeBron James. Like, I was watching The Game when that was on ESPN. When they had his high school basketball game or whatever on ESPN. And to me, it just seems like he was not going to be allowed to fail. So I was kind of like, every time I saw something that he did, I was kind of like, yeah. Again, that's why I started thinking the NBA was a work. because it just so happened that every single person was right, and LeBron James was the greatest basketball player since Michael Jordan. And they knew this when he was 17. Now he's 37 or something like that. And he's passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all this kind of shit. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the crazy thing is, I'm not the only one who thinks that. I saw a lot of people when he passed and broke that record that was saying, don't you think like the post, I think he was playing the Mavericks, was told to let him break that record? And I was just kind of like, man, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying that it did happen that way. I'm saying that noticeably it's better for the NBA if he breaks that record. And then they stopped and did a whole 15-minute thing with Kareem in the building. They just knew he was going to break that record in this particular game. I'm like, that doesn't sound like a competitive sport to me. What if he'd have broke his ankle in the first quarter? What if somebody would have, shook him up and snapped his shin bone in the first quarter and he didn't make it? So he brought Kareem all out here. He's 70 some odd years old. You got this 15-minute gap in play planned already, and he went and tore his shin bone. Like, nah, we knew it was going to happen. This shit is some straight up Harlem Globetrotters bullshit, you know. But I don't like LeBron James because I feel like they've been holding his hand his entire career. So that's why that's my thing. Did Okada lose muscle mass, or is that just me? He was never really a big muscle guy. I think he's gotten a little bit flabbier, though. I think that is true. Let's see. What was the bigger match, Rock and Austin at WrestleMania 17 or Rock and Cena at WrestleMania 28? Well, Rock and Cena. Because Rock and Austin at 17, I'm sorry, was a huge match, but they did it 2 years before that. Rock and Cena had never been done before. 28 had never been done before. So it was, and plus it was two icons from two different eras. You can't. Rock and Austin had not only shared the ring against each other at WrestleMania 17, but they also wrestled at WrestleMania 15, and they also had feuds over the Intercontinental Championship. So it wasn't like the first time these guys had ever touched or got into, in the ring against each other. When it comes to Rock and Cena, this was the first time these two guys ever got in the ring against each other. So it was bigger to me. Whatever you do, don't watch Boruto. Trust me, I won't. I barely got through the tail end of Naruto. I got lost in that joint. Park and Hunt. Do you like the ridiculousness of the classic designs of comic book characters? Compared to how boring their costumes are today, yes. I didn't like all the pockets and shit that they was doing in the 90s. The excessive amounts of super large guns that couldn't possibly be held by human hands, and the crazy pockets and everything. But the color schemes, they seem to be a little over the top, but it's supposed to be colorful characters. They're not all superheroes shouldn't be wearing like a t-shirt and jeans. I don't know about that. Can't do that. TN Pyro's he feeling me on this one. The NBA is scripted. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. When the Pistons won the championship in 2004, I felt like it was scripted for the Lakers to win, and then the Pistons won, and then they punished the Pistons by just stomping them for like every year after that. Like stomp, stomp, stomp. They didn't even really talk about the Pistons when they won the title. It was all about how the Lakers lost. So the media is dictating the conversation. It's always dictated by the bigger market. Um, let's see. Football script. Look, man, I'm telling you, it's got to be a work. Why do girls always cry after a breakup? It was just because of the emotional investment, you know. Um, it's basically emotional investment. If you ever drop an HBO Showtime show, I drop Californication. I really never took anything that came on those shows seriously on those networks. I think, yeah, I never watched like an HBO show. I've had certain people try to get me to watch True Blood and stuff like that, but I never got into it. But it's not like I I stopped the show or anything like that. Um, Gio ever said you can't script it. Here's the thing: you can choose when to call fouls. Let's say, um, you know, you can shave. Point shaving is a thing. You can do many things. Like yeah, eventually yes, they have to put the ball in the hoop. That's the important part of the game. That's the part they can't control, whether the ball goes in the hoop or not. But the foul calls, when they give a foul call, yeah, yeah, they can do that. You know, there's especially holding in the NFL. They will call holding on a team that they don't want to win. They have like 15 holding calls. I'm telling you, man, it's bullshit. Um, what's your thoughts on everyone trying to make superheroes like Superman into a bad guy? Like it takes the charm away from them. That's just people who have dark souls who don't understand why, you know. But it goes. I could go a little bit deeper with it goes along the hatred of anything that's considered a paragon of morality, whether it's God, whether it's the Father, whether it's a king, whether it's anything. Anybody who's considered a moral better needs to be brought down. You know, that's kind of how it is. Um, True Blood don't do it. All right, Ben, get it in. Thank you for hanging out, man. I appreciate it. Mongo's how to get an ex-girlfriend to stop texting you randomly. Um, well, there's two ways. You can either one block her. That's if you don't want to do that. Ask her to do something that either she's going to be offended by, or you never know. You might ask her to do some shit that you think is going to offend her, but in reality, she might be down for it. Therefore, it's a win-win. So ask her for like a threesome or something like that. But hey, you keep texting me. Why don't you get a threesome? I would not. I would not change my number. Don't change your number. Don't do that. Don't run away from chicks. Run them off. Ask her to buy you a motorcycle for Christmas or something like that. You know, just keep asking for shit. I think if you beg, she'll get turned off. You know, ask her like, can you buy me lunch? I need some new shoes. She'll eventually smarten up and will leave you alone. Unless she's down for it, because if she's down for it, then you get new shoes, you get lunch every day. You know, you might just love the attention. Um, AJ3 says, I just saw a Dutch Mantel interview talking about Zeb culture gimmick and how Ricardo Rodriguez found it racist. Um, he's of course he found it racist. He was that called Bumblebee Man from The Simpsons, and he cried about that for like 2 years. Look, yeah, he's one of those dudes. He probably just find racism in a bowl of oatmeal. There's people like that. They just exist. But Zeb culture was intentionally racist, though. He was a bigot. He's like Archie Bunker. He just didn't play it up for funnies. How do I get my ex to call me? Now that's a tough question because now you have to implant the idea into her mind for her to call you. Um, you know, um, there are some ways to get her to call you, but all of those ways are real scumbag shits. You know, you can play the sympathy card. You know, you could call her and try to get her to call you back. But sometimes it's better for you not to do all that. If you have to try to figure out a way to get her to contact you, then probably not smart to want that attention. That's weird though. I want my ex to call me. Well, you could stalk her Facebook. I'm not gonna say. I don't know, man. Like it's weird. It's weird. There's ways of creating a natural conversation. Could be a reason to get her to talk to you again. It had to be a creative thing though. And it has to be something she has to be open to even talking about. Like nobody wants to talk about the good old days if she's not ready to, go back to doing that. But maybe ask her a question just to see if she answers it. Do she remember blah 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 blah, and see if she contacts you. If not, then no big deal. But if you, oh no, drop a call and claim you was pocket dialing, oh that's just weirdo stuff. They're not gonna keep up with that. They're gonna be like, yeah, nigga, you calling me. AJ3 says, what are your finest moments in time in the 50-year anniversary of hip hop? Well, Yo MTV Raps, the last episode of Yo MTV Raps. That should be easy to say the first episode, but I really remember the last episode because the last episode is was meaningful. Same thing with Rap City, the Basement. Like the last episode of Big Tigger's Rap City. Oh man, that was something. Man, that was something. It was an emotional moment. It was an emotional time. Uh, Jazzy Jeff and Will Smith getting that first Grammy. That was meaningful. Uh, of course, the murders of Tupac and Biggie, Jam Master Jay. Uh, uh, Run DMC and Aerosmith Walks This Way. When that video came out, that song. Um, what else? The formulation of nWo, Straight Outta Compton, that whole thing, that album in general. Um, let's see, what else? Uh, there's some other ones there, but I think there was some really genre defining moments. We haven't had any in a while though. I don't think there's been a genre defining moment in a long time because rap has been so integrated into American society now that I don't think that it's possible for them to do anything else. Rappers have gone diamond. They've been the face of corporations. They've done all kinds of stuff. Do you remember BET Uncut? Of course I do. Of course I do. Of course I do. I lived for BET Uncut. Lived for it. What's the difference between rap and hip hop? Well, rapping is a thing that rappers do. Hip hop is a culture and a lifestyle. See, hip hop is all about b-boying, graffiti, DJ, rapping, and the last one is I forget what the last pillar of hip hop is. It's 5, but together it's a culture. I think it's breakdancing. So all together, it's a culture. It's a cultural thing. This happen out in the park. People doing break dances on cardboard outside house parties, DJs, cutting up the records. Little kids, drawing murals with paint and all that stuff on the walls. All that stuff was hip hop culture, the way kids used to dress. But the rap is actually rapping. That's what the MC does, the master of ceremonies. He actually rhymes on the microphone over a beat. That's rapping. So hip hop music is supposed to go along with the DJ cutting on the record. Like a DJ premiere track is like a hip hop record. Okay? Even though it's technically a rap song, it comes across more like a classic hip hop song as a DJ cutting some records with the that kind of thing to it, the breaks and everything. Um, there was more to it than that, and a lot of samples. A lot of samples. Sampling is a hip hop thing. It created sampling. Um, but rap itself just became guy creates beats, guy raps. No break dancing, no graffiti, nothing else. The guy's not even a DJ technically. He probably produces records on a keyboard or something like that, or an MPC drum machine. Um, and he doesn't know the first thing about digging in crates and finding records or anything like that. Which is the backpacker. The backpacker rap style is more hip hop because it's usually somebody literally dug somewhere and found a vinyl record and do what they used to do back in the day, and that is take a old vinyl record and scratch it up. Find samples, loops, things like that. Darren Gordon Hill knows what he's talking about. He's a producer. He's a DJ. Ain't you a DJ, Darren Gordon Hill? Don't you cut up the records? You're digging in your vinyl casemate. Brock Lesnar's contract is set to expire by mid-April 2023. Well, that's just in time for WrestleMania, isn't it? he sent me in my hard drive. Well, you're not a DJ. Okay. You're just a record producer. A lot of people do both, though. I just found out earlier this week. This is crazy. DJ Quick was the engineer for All Eyes on Me. Again, DJ Quick worked on a Dr. Dre album, a quote unquote Dr. Dre album, and I don't find out about it till like 10 years later. But yeah, DJ Quick was the engineer on All Eyes on Me. Crazy, really, really crazy. That I just found that out literally a couple of days ago, and I was like, man, how does that? Darren Gordon Hill's dad wouldn't let him scratch records. But yeah, cut, scratch is the style I go for. Yeah, I like that. It's a classic hip hop style. You know, it works. It works. People like that stuff still today. You know, it's just that we get a lot of Casio beats now. A lot of people, just rhyming off of bullshit drum patterns, and it's bizarre. A lot of guys don't know how to play the guitar. I mean, I'm sorry, play the instruments. They don't know how to play the drums or anything like that. But since they started having recorders, which was in the 80s, early 90s, they didn't really need that anyway. I've been reading the book Time too, slowly but surely making my way through it. It's interesting, very interesting, pretty good. Darren Gordon Hill likes the fun of hip hop, breaking, graffiti. Now it's just drugs and violence. Yeah, that shit took over. I was watching. I suggest everybody do this. Go to YouTube when this video is over and put in Detroit the Scene. It's going to be a old dance show similar to like Soul Train, but it's set in Detroit. And it started in like the late 70s and it ran into like the mid 80s. And you can watch how music changed in that time. It's crazy, And then if it had stayed around, it probably would have gotten crazy. Like we couldn't even have a Soul Train today. It'd be all twerk videos. It'd be all bras with long fingernails, just twerking in line. That's shame. Like we used to have crazy dances. We don't even have dances anymore, man. You know, that was the one positive thing about something goofy like the stanky leg. At least it was a dance. At least it was something you were meant to do. He was an MC, moving the crowd. Black Saiyan 97. Would you rather see Brock versus Lashley at Mania or Brock versus Gunther? Well, Brock versus Lashley, I believe. See, Gunther is not. I don't think he's ready for that platform. I don't think he's ready for it yet. He's a great talent, but if he beats Brock, then what the fuck are you gonna do then? Like, where does he go from there? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, where does he go from there? In his first year? In his first WrestleMania? Where does he go from there? You know, I like the idea of him wrestling Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, or the heralded triple threat match with Sheamus. I don't like that. I don't like triple threat matches. I do like the idea of Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. And or Gunther versus Sheamus again. I can be okay with that. But I don't want Brock. I think Brock should be when he's already in the main event, and then we have Gunther versus Brock. G Coalition, brother, have you seen Crazy Bones podcast about the industry meeting in 1992? Are you talking about the Illuminati meeting? I think he's told that story a couple of times. I don't remember it that well, but I've heard it. About the old Illuminati meeting in '92. That sounds crazy. My question is, how would he know? Bone didn't get on until '93, so how the hell did he know what was going on in '92? But then again, it's entirely possible that he's probably out in California doing fucking around with Eazy-E around that time, and Eazy-E was into some weird shit, so maybe they figured it out. Darren Gordon Hill plays multiple instruments, though he's mastered none, just enough to hash out his ideas. See, yeah, that's a Ninth Wonder thing right there. Ninth Wonder. It was also a DJ Quick thing. He also learned how to play a couple of instruments, and it actually helped him flesh out his ideas. He's not really the best at anything, but he plays the drums. He plays the guitar. Scarface does too. Scarface plays the guitar. Quite a few rappers play instruments, and it helps with the production. Especially if they are a producer, it helps that they actually know how to play some instruments, because then they know how to put instrumentation to the music and everything. But a lot of them don't. They just bullshit. Top Dog says it's not true. We had the whip and the nay nay and hit the Quan in the Running Man Challenge in 2015. Wait till you realize that was 7 years ago. Is there any dances today? That I don't know, but the nay nay was even older than that. The nay nay had to be older than that. And I don't think I ever heard the whip. I'm not even saying that we should. I'm an adult. I was an adult in 2015. I wouldn't have done any dances, but that's really what was for the kids. Those dances and stuff like that. That was the kids' version of hip hop. It wasn't no clean album. It was you create dance records that kids would like, and then their parents felt safe with them listening to, like crisscross and make you jump, jump. The daddy make you jump, jump. That was, people got into that. When I was a kid, that was, I shouldn't have been, I wasn't listening to Chris Ross, but that's what it was supposed to be. I was supposed to listen to Mike D. Yes, Mike D is actually pretty good. Mike D is pretty good. Who's my favorite B-boy? I don't really have one. Crazy Legs is pretty cool though. I have bouts of, watching breakdancing and dance battles and stuff like that on YouTube or whatever. It's like sometimes I still watch rap battles. I don't really follow rap battles anymore. I fell off a cliff with that shit, but sometimes I still do watch it. Were I ever a B-boy? No. I grew up in the early 90s, man. That shit was already dead by then. That shit was dead. By the time I became like a 12, 14 years old, that shit was dead. It was boots and jeans all the day. It wasn't no me, myself, house party. No, I wasn't. I'm not that old, bro. Those 90s party songs hold up today. They really do. You know, that's what they were made for. They were made to be timeless party records. That's why you see Baby Got Back keep getting used for various commercials. Like Sir Mix-a-Lot probably made more money off doing commercials than he probably made off that fucking song. And he made a grip off that song probably. But now there are so many people who do Baby Got Back in their commercials. You know, because that song's 30 years old or something like that. Like, man, make a grip off that shit. You know, Lean Back was a dance song, wasn't it? I didn't even catch that. That's a good catch. What's my favorite Ice Cube album? Oh, I want to say Death Certificate. Um, is that the one that had Bird in the Hand on it? Let me look it up since you asked me, because I'm a big fan of Ice Cube's Death Certificate, but I can't remember like all the tracks that are on it. Shit. Also like the Predator. That was a really good album too. My least favorite was probably the double CD that he did. That double CD that he did, I wasn't a huge fan of that. But yeah, Bird in the Hand was on Death Certificate. Um, I like that nice little string of albums Ice Cube did. Kill at Will, Death Certificate, The Predator. Excellent three trilogy right there. Tremendous trilogy. Death Certificate infinitely better than The Predator. Infinitely better. But I I really liked Ice Cube's early material until he got to the mid '90s. Um, when we got to it was the late '90s. I'm sorry. When he got to the double CD joint, I wasn't feeling that. From Wikipedia, this shit came out in '98. So '98, '99. Push rhymes like wait. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah. He was only hot because Friday was a thing, right? Ice Cube. I think I did like Hello, and I think that's an iconic beat. Boom, 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 boom. I started this gangster shit. This the motherfucker thanks I get. I was like, I was one of my favorite tracks when I was a youngster. Top Dog says, in the opinion, stuff like grunge and gangster rap helped kill the fun factor in music. Everything started to become about depressed shit, gang banging, smoking weed, etc. Yeah, you know, Nirvana actually made some decent stuff. It wasn't all depressing, you know, but a lot of it was depressing, you know. And the fucking guy started fucking around and kill himself. So yeah, he was pretty down bad. But it wasn't all depressing, I don't think. Um, I liked Heart Shaped Box. I don't think that was supposed to be an uplifting song, but I liked Heart Shaped Box. I like Come As You Are. Come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be. That was nice. It was a nice little track. I like the early Nirvana. You know, never mind. It was pretty sweet. I loved it. Yeah, a male feminist shot himself. Unreal, right? Had difficulties with women. Oh my god. What the, how could that be? Yes, Raven used Come As You Are as a theme. And then I think in TNA he used an instrumental version that was kind of stripped, not just stripped of the lyrics. I think it was kind of interpolation. Um, it was weird. It was weird because Guns N' Roses, like Axl Rose on the song calling people niggers and shit. He said, I think he just said the word nigger in the song. I think that's really all it was. But nobody cared. He didn't get canceled. Nobody canceled Guns N' Roses. That shit was in like '92. Nobody, nobody cared. I think he was asked like one question about it in an interview, and he answered it pretty succinctly, and nobody else cared. And I don't think it's been censored off the album either. Well, unless it maybe it has. I probably downloaded some kind of bootleg copy or something like that. So I don't know. Maybe they took it off, but I forget what the name of the song was too. But it wasn't like it mattered. I'm not upset by that word. That word doesn't bother me. I use that fucking word to keep my teeth white. Uh, Ice Cube War and Peace album was trash. It was meh. Look, I think meh is pushing it. I hated them albums. Oh, I hated them. Hated both of them. He didn't really make a comeback until like what 05 maybe. What one's it? Gangsta Rap Made Me Do It. That was kind of his big return to the game, being very good. Yeah, I should have bought a hard copy of. Back when I used to listen to a lot of rock music, I was picking it up so fast that I was just downloading stuff. I didn't have time to go to a physical record store. So I was like, oh, because people kept telling me like, if you like this, you should probably like this, and I was kind of sorting through it, and I was like, oh shit, this is actually pretty good. I started listening to a lot of that stuff. I never really made it to a record store though, so maybe I should. Where would I rank Prime Sunny in all of women's wrestling? I'm guessing you mean looks, because that's all we can base that on, because she never wrestled a match. Uh, Top 25 maybe, top 15 maybe. Certainly not number one, because some of those other chicks, man, they were. I just saw a Playboy video of Candice Michelle where she is showing everything. I'm like, whoa, like, this chick is hot, bro. It's not just girls, hot. All right, about to wrap it up. I'm getting kind of sleepy. I gotta go to work in the morning. But random talking about Ice Cube albums. That was pretty random. It came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting to talk to anybody about Ice Cube albums because I don't think anybody has ever heard a whole Ice Cube album outside of very few people. Like the older I got, the fewer people have actually ever heard of Ice Cube album. Oh no, I'm not praising her for being a porn star. I'm praising her for being hot. It just so happened that the video I was looking at was pornography. I think she did that before she went to WWE though, or she did it while she was in WWE. One of the two. But I think it was during the Playboy days. She actually tried as a wrestler too. She was trying really hard. Parkin Hunt says that he got the first 100 episodes of SpongeBob because they removed the midlife crustacean. Hmm. Napster, did you have Napster? I didn't have Napster. We used LimeWire. I used LimeWire back in the day. That should take forever for one song, man. We'd be sitting there trying to make a CD. Fucking CD had come out like the real version. None of the fucking songs that we downloaded took 2 hours to download would be on the fucking CD. None of them. We'd be so fucking furious, man. Put in fucking Nas album or whatever. And next thing you know, we downloading like random Nas tracks. Like, oh, we got the new Nas album. Nas' actual album comes out, none of those fucking songs are on it. Maybe two of them are on there. The single, which they're always going to make sure that they get, and a bunch of other shit. So either some mixtape stuff or just some random tracks. But you can always, it ain't an album when you hear it. You just know it's not a cohesive, well put together, thought through record. You just know it's not. It's not the case. But he fell for it every time. We be in there. Nas album, put yada yada yada, and a bunch of random records just start popping up. You're like, damn. Now we look like fools. Like all the time. I actually do not own one rock album. I probably should get like the like a couple of best ofs. But I don't think sometimes I think the album cuts are better than the singles. Like, when it comes to like the Black Keys, I like their singles. I like their album cuts too. I like the album cuts from like Bon Jovi and stuff. AC/DC and shit. Really good stuff. All right, y'all. Again, kind of tired. Appreciate everybody. Hope y'all enjoyed yourselves. Thank you for the time. If you're popping in late, I was here for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Appetite for Destruction was pretty good. If I remember correctly, that's the Guns N' Roses album. That's actually pretty good. Welcome to the Jungle is just insane. It's an insane record. It fucking rules. Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. I love that song. I love Welcome to the Jungle. I was one of the few kids who liked Metallica and Guns N' Roses and shit. It was great. That MTV era was fun. It expanded my horizons. That was a positive thing about BET not showing music videos and stuff yet, because I could expand my horizons. All right. I'll talk to you guys later, probably Saturday. What's Saturday? Nothing. No. Yeah, nothing Saturday. Vengeance Day has already passed. Royal Rumble's already passed. There's no big event on Saturday. There's no big event on Sunday. So I guess I'll see you guys Sunday night. Well, except for when I'm here to do SmackDown review. All right. Talk to you guys later. Peace out.